Given the choice, whether to rule a corrupt and failing empire, or to challenge the fates for another throw, a better throw against one's destiny. What was a king to do? But does one ever truly have a choice? One can only match, move by move, the machinations of fate, and thus defy the tyrannous stars.
Üdvözletem mindenkinek! Nos, ugye nagyon sok olyan kérdés jött már, hogy honnan jött számomra ez a történetmesélés dolog, és hát volt egy történet, amit nem is tudom, hogy hányszor, számtalanszor végighallgattam, végignéztem, és mindig is úgy gondoltam, hogy talán ez az a történet, ami engem a legjobban megfogott mindközül. Egyáltalán nem egy könnyű, idézőjeles olvasmány, hiszen ez a történet azért elég hosszú időre végignyúlik, konkrétan az idő szó az itt elég sok mindent fog jelenteni ebben a történetben, és úgy gondoltam, hogy talán jobb lenne, hogyha megmutatnám nektek, hogy mi is volt az az inspiráció, ami miatt elkezdtem valamikor ezt az egészet, és melyik volt az a történet, ami engem a legjobban megfogott. Mint ahogy már az elején láthattátok, Legacy of Kain, tehát Kain történetéről fogunk beszélni, és egyben legendájáról. Legacy of Kain egy fantasy témájú akció-kaland videójáték sorozat, melynek első részét a Silicon Knights készítette, és a Crystal Dynamics fejlesztő céggel együttműködve készítették ezt el. Mindegyik játékban fontos szerep jut az akciórészeknek, emellett a logikai feladványoknak, történetük pedig egy Nosgoth nevű fiktív világban játszódik, az egyes részeket pedig Kain, az erkölcstelen vámpír alakítja és köti össze. A játék lényegében két történetszállal rendelkezik, az egyik Kain, a másik pedig Raziel nézőpontjában mutatja az eseményeket, melyek végül a sorozat utolsó részét érik el, tehát konkrétan a tetőpontot. A Legacy of Kain jelentős kritikai sikereket ért el, főleg a kiemelkedő szinkronhangoknak, a történetnek és a grafikának köszönhetően, és hát apropó szinkronhangok, elmondhatom, hogy konkrét legendák szólaltak meg és személyesítették meg a karaktereket, bár sajnálatos módon sokak már nincsenek közöttünk. Nos, úgy gondolom, hogy ahhoz, hogy jól megértsük Legacy of Kain történetszálát, ahhoz meg kell érteni néhány dolgot a történettel kapcsolatban, tehát alapvetően a történet főszereplője Kain, de később egy másik főszereplő is színre lép, Raziel, aki szintén nagy hangsúlyt fog majd kapni. De mielőtt beszélnénk a két főszereplőről, sok-sok száz évvel azelőtt, mielőtt még ők színre léptek volna, a kezdetekben a Hildenek és az ősök uralkodtak Nosgothban. Viszont a két faj között egy idő után konfliktus keveredett ki, de azt nem mondanám el, hogy miért, ez majd a történetből ki fog derülni. Végeredményében ezek az ősi lények elűzik a Hildeneket egy teljesen másik dimenzióba. Hogy megakadályozzák a visszatérésüket, 9 oszlopot állítanak Nosgoth földjére. Minden oszlopnak van egy őre, és kezdetben ezek a szárnyas lények, akiket később vámpíroknak fognak nevezni, mivel a Hildenek átokkal sújtják őket, emiatt emberi vért kell szívniuk ahhoz, hogy életben maradjanak. Megfosztották őket az idő folyamától, tehát nem öregednek, halhatatlanok, és csak vérüket ontva lelhetnek békességre a túlvilágon, és természetesen a szaporodástól is elvágták őket. Itt ebben a világban a vámpírok ugyanúgy szaporodtak régen, mint az emberek. Az ősi isten, a vámpírok istene elfordult tőlük, mert az átok miatt a sors kerekét nem tudják táplálni a vámpírok szellemei, ebből kifolyólag rengeteg vámpír lesz öngyilkos. Ahhoz, hogy ne halljon ki a faj, embereket raboltak el, majd vámpírrá változtatták őket, ez az oka az összetűzésnek az emberek és a vámpírok között. Ennek hatására a vámpírok még jobban ritkulni kezdtek, és egy idő után már az oszlopoknak sem maradtak őrzői. Viszont azt tudni kell, hogy az oszlopok választják az űröket, és nem fordítva. Később, amikor már vámpírok nem születtek, az emberek voltak azok, akik átvették az ő helyüket. És ez az egyik legnagyobb dilemma ebben a történetben, de majd erről is egy kicsit később. Nagyjából most elmondtam az előszavát a történetnek, lássuk végül is Kain történetét. És az pedig a Blood Omennel kezdődik.
There is a magical operation of maximum importance, the initiation of a new aeon. When it becomes necessary to utter a word, the whole planet must be bathed in blood.
Call your dogs! They can feast on your corpses! Fulfilling the circular mallet of the Sarafan, you are hereby damned. The pleasures of the flesh are no longer yours. You have but one purpose, damned warrior. You will serve us for eternity.
A Blood Omen konkrétan azzal a jelenettel kezdődik, ahogy láthatjuk, hogy a vámpírokat a kihalás felé akarják sodorni. A kilencek köre megalkotta a Sarafan rendet, akik olyan harcosokból álltak, akik a vámpírok ellen küzdöttek. De ez a másik oldalról sem maradt megtorlatlanul, hiszen egy ősi vámpír, Vorador pedig úgy gondolta, hogy ideje tenni valamit a halandók ellen. Ahogy már az előszóban is megemlítettem, évszázadokkal Kain születése előtt a kilencek köre védte Nosgothot, egy varázslókból álló csoport, akik esküdtettek arra, hogy megvédik és szolgálják Nosgothot és annak szent oszlopait. A 9 ősi oszlop, mely a világ fölé magasodva tört az égbe, őrizte az életet és a harmóniát a földön. A kilencek körébe azonban sötét erők szivárogtak be, és az egyensúly oszlopának őrét, Arielt kegyetlenül meggyilkolták. Amikor szerelme Napraptor, az elme oszlopának őre ezt megtudta, a saját fájdalmába beleőrült, és az őrületével megfertőzte a többi őrt is, akikkel szimbiózisban él. A mentálisan meghasadt őrök ekkor Nosgoth ellen fordítják sötét varázslataikat, elhagyták az oszlopok szolgálatát, melyek csendesen, megtörve álltak ott. Amikor egy őrző meghal, egy új születik a helyére. Nosgoth egy városában, Korhégenben született egy nemes ember, akit Kainnek hívnak, aki kiváltságos életet élt, mit sem sejtve arról, hogy ő Ariel kiválasztott utódja az egyensúly oszlopának következő őre. Kain ambiciózus nemes, aki sok éven át szolgált a remény seregében Ottmár király alatt, mielőtt nyugatra indult a végzetes útjára. Egy este megállt egy vidéki fogadónál, ahol lesből utonállók támadtak rá és meggyilkolták.
They victors, suffering to the conquered. Ironic that now I was the one suffering. Not anything as pedestrian as physical pain, rather the cruel jab of impotent anger. The hunger for revenge. I didn't care if I was in heaven or hell. All I wanted was to kill my assassins. Sometimes you get what you wish for. The necromancer Mortanius offered me a chance for vengeance, and like a fool, I jumped at his offer without considering the cost. Nothing is free, not even revenge.
You will have the blood you hunger for.
Kain bosszúvággyal a szívében mérlegelés nélkül vakmerően elfogadta Mortanius a halál oszlopának őrének ajánlatát, és lelke visszakerült a holttestébe, kikelt a sírjából, és felfedezte, hogy vámpír lett belőle. Elhagyta a kriptáját, hogy felkutassa gyilkosait, és véres bosszút álljon rajtuk. Bosszúja ki is elégül, és most már csak egy gyógymódot keres a vámpírátokra, ami sújtotta őt. És hát nagyon érdekes, hogy Mortanius egyfajta gyermekeként gondol Kainre, hiszen ő volt, aki megalkotta őt, és azt tanácsolta halott fiának, hogy menjen el az oszlopokhoz, hiszen ezek az utonállók lehetséges, hogy megölték őt, viszont nem ők voltak, akik ezt az egészet így rendezték.
Nopraptor, your madness has shattered our dreams and blinded you.
Keep your distance, or I'll send you back to hell, spirit!
There is nothing left of me to fear, vampire. I'm only a shadow of my former self, Ari, the balance of the Circle of Nine. Even so, I can provide the answers you seek.
I seek only a cure.
There is no cure for death, only release. You must destroy the sorcery that is now poisoning Nosgoth. Only then will you realize peace. The 9 of the Protectors of Hope were sworn to use their powers to preserve our world. Now these pillars have been corrupted by a traitor. My murder at the hands of this beast drove my love Nopraptor mad. Now he spreads misery and pain among the Circle, crumbling the very foundation of Nosgoth. You must restore balance. You must right the pillars of Nosgoth.
I care not for the fate of this world.
Then for yourself, Kain. Beware the unspoken.
Ariel pedig elmondta Kainnek, hogy csak is úgy állíthatja vissza Nosgoth egyensúlyát, hogyha megöli az őröket. Kaint nem nagyon érdekelte, hogy visszaállítsa Nosgoth egyensúlyát, ő inkább azon foglalatoskodott, hogy hogyan is szabadulhatna meg a vámpírátoktól. Legalábbis ezt gondolta egy darabig. És még mielőtt tovább mennénk, gyorsan elmondanám, hogy kik is voltak azok az őrök, akikre Kainnek vadásznia kellett. Az elmeőre ugye Nopraptor, a dimenziók őre Azimuth, a konfliktus őre Malek, a természetőre a druida Bane, az energiaőre Dejul, az időre Mobius, a rendőre Anakrof, a halálőre Mortanius és az egyensúly őre ugye Ariel, későbbi utódja Kain, bár ő még nem tud róla. Ariel szellemének utasítására megkereste és elpusztította Nopraptort, ezután pedig áthaladta a pestis sújtotta szülővárosán Corhagenön. Ezután megküzdött Malekkel is, a konfliktus őrével, viszont ő túl erősnek bizonyult Kainnek. Ezután úgy gondolta, hogy ha a legendák igazak, akkor volt valaki, aki legyőzte már Maleket egyszer, ez nem volt más, mint a vámpír Vorador. Így hát északra ment, hogy felkeresse őt. De ahhoz, hogy pontosan megtudja, hol is találhatja meg Voradort, Ariel utasítására és egyben tanácsára Kain felkeresi az orákulumot.
A nobleman, seeking wisdom. Death has taught you well.
Enough philosophy, I seek answers.
Answers indeed. I have them all if you have the questions. And what are the questions for these answers? King Atma, the only hope to defeat the legions of the Nemesis. King Atmar, paralyzed by his princess's malaise. King Atmar the useless. Pray, good sir, what are the questions?
A pox upon your tricks and babble, old man. Answer me this. Who is Malik, and how can I defeat him?
All in time, Sirrah. Yes, time. Unless you master it, it will master you. And now it's time for your answer. Malik, defender of the Nine, and last of the Sarafan sorcerer priests. His vanity led to the slaughter of the Circle at the hands of the vampire Vorador. For his failing, his spirit was fused to a hellish set of magical armor. He has allowed no member of the Circle to fall since.
What of this Vorador?
Follow the glow of the Ignis Fatuous to the Termagant Forest.
Ignis Fatuous?
The Ignis Fatuous lights the path to hell, nobleman. Your path. Time, Kain? Next time.
Nos, hogy az orákulum elmesélte Kainnek, merre is találja Voradort, azon a kellemetlen mocsaron keresztül sikerült megtalálnia az ősi vámpírt. Vorador viszont azt tanácsolta a fiatal Kainnek, hogy ne avatkozzon az emberek problémáiba, és adott neki egy gyűrűt, amivel, hogyha esetleg Kain szorult helyzetbe kerülne, akkor megidézheti őt.
In the bowels of that black forest, I found something worse than hell. A vision of what I was becoming.
It's not often I see one of our own, especially one as young and foolish as yourself. Nonetheless, drink. Drink deep and indulge your gift.
Gift? Vorador thought my curse a blessing. That we were gods. That mortals offered their blood as sacrifice so that we could enjoy our supernatural powers. And somewhere, deep inside my new self, I knew he was right. That mortal dreams were prayers. Prayers to us, begging us for power.
I pondered this as the decadent old fool prattled on about his past. A boorish account of how he defeated Malik of the Sarafan and took his vengeance upon the Circle of Nine for supporting the Sarafan holy war to exterminate us.
Call your dogs! They can feast on your corpses! After slaughtering 6 of the sheep, I defeated their pathetic little shepherd, Malik. Since then, our kind has not bothered with the cattle, except to feed. And I suggest you do the same. Meddling with the affairs of man can do us no good. Sarafan witch hunts are much too tedious to concern ourselves with. Am I understood, Kain? Good. Take this ring. If you ever need assistance, it will summon you. Despite your youthful arrogance, you amuse me, Kain. It would be such a pity to lose you to the abyss. Now be gone!
Ezután Kain eljutott a sötét Édenbe, ami egy meggyötört föld volt, és ott találkozott egyszerre 4 őrrel is, Dörzsullal, Bane-nel, Anakroffal és Malekkal, bár Anakroff megszökött. Kain Malek ellen megidézte Voradort, és ő a másik 2 őrrel is végzett. Amikor a 2 őr és Malek meghalt, Kain úgy döntött, hogy délre indul. Útja alatt megtalálta és magának követelte a szó reavert, egy rejtélyes ősi pengét. Ezt a részt jobb, ha megjegyzitek, mert ez még fontos lesz. Avernus katedrálisának mélyén pedig megölte a dimenzió oszlop őrét, Azimutot, majd rábukkant egy időgépre, amit Mobius az idő oszlopának őre készített. Bár azt olvasta itt Kain a krónikákban, hogy egy sötét istent imádnak ebben a katedrálisban, akinek a neve Hássággék. Ezt is csak azért mondom el, mert még fontos lesz később. Ezután pedig az ősi vámpír Vorador tanácsa ellenére Kain Willendorfba megy, és azt remélve, hogy legyőzhet egy óriási légiót, amit csak a Nemezis légiójának is neveznek, egy brutális hódító sereget, ami Nosgothot akarja meghódítani. Természetesen ennek a Nemezisnek neve is van, az igazságos William, vagy hát az eredeti nevén William the Just. Kain pedig azért ment Willendorfba, hogy rávegye Ottmar királyt, hogy vezesse harcba a remény seregét a Nemezis légiója ellen, amit sikeresen meg is tett. És mielőtt még itt tovább mennénk, azért szeretnénk megemlíteni néhány dolgot Kainről is, hiszen egy idő után már megváltozott a véleménye erről a bizonyos vámpírátokról, hiszen eleinte megrémült, de amikor rájött, hogy most már csak az emberi vérre szomjazik, akkor átkozottnak képzelte magát. Viszont később elkezdett alkalmazkodni ehhez, és felfedezte, hogy a lelke mélyén növekszik az elégedetlensége az emberiség iránt, és egyre jobban kezdett neki megtetszeni a halhatatlansága és az ereje is. Ugye itt vissza lehet idézni azt a beszélgetést, ami Voradorral folyt, hogy a vámpírok istenek, sötét istenek, akik csak azért léteznek, hogy gyakorolhassák a teljesen természetellenes képességeiket, és az emberek valójában nem jelentenek semmit egyszerű prédáknál. Kain egyre jobban kezdett hasonlítani Voradorra, hiszen a dekadencia minden nagy harcosnak a legnagyobb ellensége. De térjünk is vissza a történetünkhöz, ugye Kain rávette Willendorf királyát, Ottmart, hogy vezesse harcba a remény seregét a Nemezis légiója ellen. Viszont ez egy elég esélytelen háború volt, hiszen amikor Ottmar király seregének veresége már biztosnak látszott, a kis időgép, amit Kain magával vitt az Azimut utáni harc után, elkezdett reagálni. Mire Kain észbe kapott, visszament 50 évvel Nosgoth múltjába. Kain pedig bölcsességében úgy gondolta, ha már amúgy is ebben a korban landolt, akkor talán megelőzhet néhány problémát. Abban bízva, hogy megváltoztathatja a jövőt, meg akarta ölni a fiatal William királyt, aki 50 év múlva ugye az ördögi zsarnokká, a Nemezissé válna. William és Kain összecsaptak egymással, viszont a nagyon furcsa dolog a történetben, hogy mind a kettőjüknek ugyanaz a fegyvere volt, a szó reaver. Itt egy pillanatra szintén megállnék, hiszen ez megint egy fontos pillanat amúgy a történetben, itt történik az első paradoxon. Az a fegyver egyáltalán nem úgy nézett ki, mint a szó reaver, hanem az pontosan a szó reaver volt. Mind a kettőjüknek ugyanaz a fegyvere volt. Ami technikailag ugyebár lehetetlen. Ezt pedig csak egy ember tervelhette ki ennyire jól, és csak olyan, aki ért az idő manipulálásához, és ez nem más, mint Mobius, az időőre. De vissza a történethez, Kain eltörte William pengéjét, megölte őt, majd visszatért a saját idejébe. Itt nem azt találta, amit remélt, döbbenten fedezte fel, hogy az ifjú korában még szeretett király meggyilkolása népírtó háborút indított el a vámpírok ellen, amit maga az időőre Mobius vezetett. Visszatérésekor Kain szemtanúja volt annak a jövőnek, amit ő kreált. Mobius hidegvérű csőcseléke éppen lefejezte a korszak utolsó vámpírját, Voradort. Immár Kain maradt az utolsó vámpír Nosgothban, és Kain ekkor döbbent rá, hogy mindvégig csak báb volt Mobius kezében. Ő volt az, aki orákulumként megjelent Kain előtt, és olyan tanácsokkal látta el, hogy félrevezesse őt. Ő volt az, aki manipulálta Williamet, hogy zsarnokká váljon, aztán Kaint rávegye, hogy utazzon vissza a múltba és megölje Williamet. Így hát elmondhatjuk, hogy Mobius végig egész Nosgothot bábként használta. Bár igaz, a mágus nagyon okos volt, viszont Kainnel még ő sem bírt el.
Ironic. By going back in time and altering the past, you turned William the Just into the Nemesis.
Aye, you have seen my plan, vampire, as I've seen your destiny. The future says you die.
But I am dead. As are you.
Mikor lefejezte az idő őrét, Mortenius újra kapcsolatba lépett Kainnel és gratulált neki, hogy nagyszerű munkát végzett. Aztán megkérte, hogy jöjjön vissza az oszlopokhoz, hiszen a színpad készen áll a befejezésre.
You betrayed us, Mortanius. You had Kain killed and turned him into a monster. You set him upon us.
It had to be. Nopraptor's insanity poisoned all of our minds. The Circle had failed in its sworn duties. It had to be destroyed.
Failed our duties? Idiot! The Circle exists for us. We don't exist for it. Our powers will save or damn Nosgoth at our whim. Stand with us, Mortanius, or die.
Then I shall die.
If the Circle is to be destroyed, you have to die as well, Necromancer. I admire your cunning, but you will not escape your fate.
Nay, I will embrace it. But my death will leave one more to take, Princeling. Finish me! You thought yourself a king, when in fact you were a pawn. You have served me well, Kain.
I serve no one.
Indeed, such narrow vision. Don't you see? My silencing of Ariel and its calculated repercussions is but the first act in my theater of Grand Guignol, of which you are the tragic hero. Play on, little vampire. Play on.
Fey Victus!
Miután árulások sorozatává vált, Kain ekkor értette meg igazán, hogy mindenki csak bábként használta őt, és ez csak azért fontos, mert így láthatjuk majd a végső döntését is.
I am the last pillar, the only survivor of the Circle of Nine. At my whim, the world will be healed or damned. At my whim.
Kain már ekkor megundorodott az emberiségtől, a varázslók mesterkedései miatt az utóbbit választotta, úgy döntött, hogy inkább uralja ezt a világot, mint sem, hogy feláldozza magát.
Once I embraced my powers, I realized that Vorador was correct. We are gods. Dark gods. And it is our duty to thin the herd.
Ez az apokaliptikus döntés befejezte az oszlopok sorsát is. Az oszlopok összedőltek, és Arielnek szüntelenül kísértenie kellett a romos oszlopok között, amit egykor oly híven szolgált. Amíg az egyensúlyt helyre nem állítják, ő sosem szabadulhat onnan. Kain ezzel befejezte keresését, és rájött, hogy Voradornak mindvégig igaza volt. A vámpirizmus nem átok, hanem áldás, és a vámpírok sötét istenek, akiknek kötelességük terelni a nyájat. Azonban az oszlopok többek voltak, mint egyszerű építmények, a föld egészsége hozzájuk kötődött. És miután nem állította Kain helyre az egyensúlyt, a fertőzés lassan leszivárgott a földbe, megmérgezve azt, és terméketlen pusztasággá változtatta a birodalmat. Történetünk pedig 1500 évvel később folytatódik a reaver idejében. Kain uralkodása során feltámasztja a Sarafan rend 6 papját, akik vámpírvadászok voltak még Kain születése előtt 500 évvel. A 6 pap nem volt más, mint Raziel, Turel, Duma, Rahab, Zephen és Melchiah. Ők klánokat alapítottak és felosztották egymás közt Nosgoth földjét, viszont a feltámasztott papok emberi életükre nem emlékeztek, így hálát éreznek Kain a mesterük iránt. 1000 évvel később a vámpírok így módon megalakult klánjaiba egyfajta evolúció indult meg, és ezzel egyre kevesebb emberi tulajdonsággal rendelkeztek. Kain az, akin először jelentek meg ezek az új tulajdonságok, évek telnek el, majd Raziel éri el azt a megtiszteltetést, hogy szárnyakat növeszthet a hátán, ezzel megelőzve Kaint az evolúciójában.
Kain is deified. The clans tell tales of him. Few know the truth. He was mortal once, as were we all. However, his contempt for humanity drove him to create me and my brethren. I am Raziel, firstborn of his lieutenants. I stood with Kain and my brethren at the dawn of the Empire. I have served him a millennium. Over time, we became less human and more divine. Kain would enter the state of change and emerge with a new gift. Some years after the Master, our evolution would follow, until I had the honor of surpassing my lord. For my transgression, I earned a new kind of reward. Agony. There was only one possible outcome. My eternal damnation. I, Raziel, was to suffer the fate of traitors and weaklings, to burn forever in the bowels of the lake of the dead.
Cast him in.
Tumbling, burning with white-hot fire, I plunged into the depths of the abyss. Unspeakable pain, relentless agony. Time ceased to exist. Only this torture and a deepening hatred of the hypocrisy that damned me to this hell. An eternity passed, and my torment receded, bringing me back from the precipice of madness. The descent had destroyed me, and yet I lived. Raziel, you are worthy.
Egy örökké valóságnak tűnő idő elteltével Raziel kínjai megszűnnek. Lent a holtak tavának fenekén az ősi isten felajánlja Razielnek a fizikai világba való visszajutást, hiszen miután a teste konkrétan szétégett, egy teljesen új formát öltött, tehát lidércként éli tovább az életét. Cserébe azt kéri, hogy álljon bosszút Kainen és a testvérein. Innentől kezdve Raziel képes átjárni a szellemi és a fizikai világ között. Vér helyett immáron lelkekkel táplálkozik, és miután Raziel visszajut a fizikai világba, egy nagyon érdekes felfedezést tesz.
I am destroyed.
You are reborn. The birth of one of Kain's abominations traps the essence of life. It is this soul that animates the corpse you lived in. And that, Raziel, is the demise of Nosgoth. There is no balance. The souls of the dead remain trapped. I cannot spin them in the wheel of fate. They cannot complete their destinies. Redeem yourself. Or if you prefer, avenge yourself. Settle your dispute with Kain. Destroy him and your brethren. Free their souls and let the wheel of fate churn again. Use your hatred to reave their souls. I can make it possible. Become my soul reaver, my angel of death.
What are these creatures?
Do you not recognize them? They are the children of your brother, Duma.
That's impossible. These foul-scuttling beasts could not be kin of our high blood?
Do you suppose that time stood still for you, Raziel? Much has changed since you passed from the world of men.
My God! The sanctuary of the clans reduced to ruin. Beyond these walls lay the pillars of Nosgoth, the seat of Kain's empire. How humble it now appeared, collapsing into the dust of its former magnificence. And yet, I had only just emerged. In the instant between my execution and resurrection, centuries had apparently passed.
This world is wrecked with cataclysms. The earth strains to shrug off the pestilence of Kain's parasitic empire. The fate of this world was preordained in an instant by a solitary man. Unwilling to martyr himself to restore Nosgoth's balance, Kain condemned the world to the decay you see. In that moment, the unraveling began. Now it is nearly played out. Nosgoth teeters on the brink of collapse. Its fragile balance cannot hold.
This, at least, had remained constant. The endlessly swirling vortex of the abyss. My tomb and the womb of my rebirth. Though much of Nosgoth's landscape had changed, these cliffs gave me my bearings. My clan territory was to the west. I was anxious to see how my descendants had fared during the centuries of my absence. Utter desolation. My once proud kin wiped from this world like excrement from a boot. I knew the hand that wrought this deed.
No! Please!
I didn't recognize these flayed racks of flesh. Their scent was vampiric. They gnawed upon their victim's carcass like dogs.
This charnel house bore the unmistakable marks of Melchiah's clan. To what depths had our dynasty plummeted if these ghouls were the descendants of my high-born brother? Were they so debased as to recruit fledglings from the desiccated corpses here interred?
My brother Melchiah was made last,
and therefore received the poorest portion of Kain's gift. Although immortal, his soul could not sustain the flesh, which retained much of its previous human frailty. This weakness, it seemed, was passed on to his offspring. Their fragile skins barely contained the underlying decay.
Miután Raziel ismerkedik ezzel az új Nosgottal, belefutott az egyik testvérébe, méghozzá Melkájába.
Do you not recognize me, brother? Am I so changed?
Melkája?
Yes, brother. You should have stayed where the master sent you, Raziel. You will find Nosgoth less pleasant than you remember.
What has become of my clan? Answer me, little brother, or I will beat an answer from your horrid lips.
Everyone is afraid, sibling. You awake to a world of fear. These times of change are so unsettling. Do you think I feel no revulsion for this form? Do you believe for a moment that our Lord would risk his empire upon an upstart inheritance?
Enough riddles. What are you saying?
You are the last to die.
Tell me, Melkája, where can I find Kain?
The Master is beyond your reach, Raziel. He makes himself known when he sees fit, not when commanded. I am released. You have done well, Raziel.
Am I reduced to this? A ghoul? A fratricide?
Razielnek sikerült legyőznie az egyik testvérét, úgy döntött, hogy az oszlopok felé megy, hogy megkeresse Kaint.
The abyss has been unkind.
I am your creation, Kain. Now, as before, you criticize your own work. What have you done with my clan, degenerate? You have no right.
What I have made, I can also destroy, child.
Damn you, Kain! You are not God! This act of genocide is unconscionable!
Conscience? You dare to speak to me of conscience? Only when you have felt the full gravity of choice should you dare question my judgment. Your lifespan is a flicker compared to the mass of doubt and regret that I have borne since Mortanius first turned me from the light. To know that the fate of the world hangs dependent on the advisedness of my every deed? Can you even begin to conceive what action you would take in my position?
I would choose integrity, Kain.
Look around you, Raziel. See what has become of our empire. Witness the end of an age. The clans scattered to the corners of Nosgoth.
This place has outlasted its usefulness.
As have you.
The Soul Reaver, Kain's ancient blade, older than any of us and 1,000 times more deadly. The legends claimed that the blade was possessed and thrived by devouring the souls of its victims. For all our bravado, we knew what it meant when Kain drew the Soul Reaver in anger. It meant you were dead. The blade is vanquished. So it unfolds. And we are a step closer to our destinies. I swore I saw a glint of satisfaction in Kain's eye when the Soul Reaver was destroyed. I did not understand the game that Kain was playing, but I knew the finishing move.
From this moment and ever afterward, you and this blade are inextricably bound. Soul Reaver and Reaver of Souls, your destinies are intertwined. By destroying the sword, you have liberated it from its corporeal prison and restored it to its true form, a Wraith blade, its energy unbound. No longer a physical blade, it can only manifest itself in the material realm when your strength is fully restored. Once manifest, it will sustain you.
What are you, little soul? Another of Kain's creatures come to taunt this bound spectre.
I did not intend to disturb your rest.
Rest. A body is needed for sleep. Flesh and bones are required to recline. No, child. All I may do is watch and remember, ceaselessly conscious as this wretched world's history unfurls. Ghastly past, insufferable future, are they one and the same? Am I always here?
How have you come to haunt these pillars?
Kain refused the sacrifice. The Pillar of Balance, corrupted to its core, stands as a monument to his blind ambition. Now these pillars serve only to bind me here, my prison and eternal home, thanks to the avarice of your master, Kain.
That bastard can claim no allegiance from me.
Then we share a common foe, Raziel. Return here when you have need. Ariel remembers what others have forgotten.
Your brother Zephon's keep lies far to the east, beyond the ruins that greeted your first exit from the underworld. He and his brood have cocooned themselves in a derelict cathedral, having murdered its human guardians.
Amint láthattátok, Kain megpróbált lesújtani Razielre a Soul Reaverrel, és az eltört. Így ráadásul kiszabadult belőle az a bizonyos lélek is, ami hozzáfonódott Razielhez, és így visszajutott arra az állapotába, amit a lidérc pengének hívnak. Bár azért belegondolhatunk abba, hogy vajon Kain miért örült annak, hogy a Soul Reaver eltört. Nos, ez természetesen ki is fog derülni a továbbiakban. Miután a penge és Raziel összefonódtak egymással, ő úgy döntött, hogy megkeresi következő testvérét, Zephont, aki az ősi Sarafan erődítménybe fészkelte be magát, hát mondhatjuk, hogy szó szerint.
Zephon, your visage becomes you. It's an appropriate reflection of your soul.
And you are not his handsome Raziel anymore. His precious firstborn son turned betrayer. You have missed so many changes, little Raziel. Look around you. See how the human's weapon of destruction has become my home. Indeed, my body. A cocoon of brick and granite from which to watch a pupating world.
A crevice in which to cower, only scuttling from the shadows to devour a victim already ensnared in your cowardly trap. But you've made the mistake of leaving me unbound, and it is you who must succumb to my will.
Will, instinct, reflex action. The insect mind finds little difference. I warn you, brother. As my stature has grown, so it is matched by my appetite. Step forward.
Miután legyőzte testvérét és egy új képességet örökölt meg tőle, Raziel újabb érdekes felfedezést tesz a múltjáról.
Take heed, Raziel. A forgotten history lies within. Know thyself, though it may destroy you.
As I pulled the stone free, a sigh of sepulchral air escaped the inner chamber. I was not prepared for what lay beyond this threshold. These crypts, defiled caskets of Sarafan saints, bearing my brothers' names, and my own. The irony of Kain's blasphemous act rushed in on me with the crushing force of revelation. Were my hands not as bloody as these? Worse, I had spilled the blood of my brothers, these very comrades whose tombs lay ravaged before me.
Yes, Raziel, you were Sarafan, born of the same force that all but destroyed your race. Before the dawn of the Empire, you were chosen. Kain, Nosgoth's solitary self-declared monarch, plundered this tomb and raised you from these crypts. Breathing his vampiric gift into your defiled corpses, he resurrected you as his favored sons.
Raziel rájött, hogy ő valamikor Sarafan pap volt, még jobban elkezdte gyűlölni Kaint, és most már sokkal nagyobb gyűlölettel vadászott rá. De ahhoz, hogy Kaint elpusztítsa, előbb a testvéreivel kell leszámolnia, és a következő pedig Rahab volt.
Once a sanctuary against the vampire menace, this abbey has been drowned by the deluge spilling from this wounded land. Your brother Rahab and his brood, devastated even by the feeble rays of Nosgoth's sun, overcame their vulnerability to water and retreated from the surface. Now they haunt these ruins and glide in the darkness of its stagnant depths. Raziel.
Rahab, you have adapted well to your environment, for one so maladjusted.
Do not mock me, Raziel. You of all of us should respect the power bestowed by a limitation overcome. Kain said you would come.
You speak with the murderer?
You would do well to mind your blasphemous tongue.
What more did he tell you?
That you would destroy me.
I will indeed. But tell me, before I tear your soul from its moorings, do you know what we were before Kain spawned us?
Human.
Sarafan, Rahab, the antithesis of all we ever believed.
Does it matter? We were lost. He saved us.
Saved us? From what?
From ourselves.
Miután pedig sikerült szintén megörökölnie a képességet Rahabtól, hogy képes most már úszni a vízben, elindult, hogy megkeresse másik kettő testvérét. Viszont Turelt valamiért nem találta meg a saját területén, természetesen erre is választ kapunk majd, hogy miért, de mivel nem találta ott, így hát úgy döntött, hogy Dumával számol le.
This city once teemed with the life of my kind. Could it be that other clans had suffered the same fate as mine? In his madness, could Kain spare none of his brood?
It was not Kain, but Duma's own arrogance that brought the downfall of his clan. These are human weapons, Raziel. Believing themselves invincible, Duma and his offspring failed to see an attack coming from the least likely assailants. Complacent in their arrogance, they were taken by surprise, allowing the human vampire hunters to decimate their ranks with little resistance. The few that escaped have been reduced to scavengers.
My brother, Duma, a powerful warrior in life. He would have burned with shame to have me find him here like a stuck pig.
Unbound at last. I thank you, brother.
Your thanks are premature, Duma. I have not forgotten whose hands bore me into the abyss.
The centuries in limbo have honed my strength. Not even Kain is my equal.
Even the strongest vampire is vulnerable.
We shall test your thesis, Raziel.
My bloodthirst has been superseded by an even darker hunger. I will consume your soul before this day is done.
Raziel megtalálja Kaint méghozzá Mobius időmanipuláló szobájában. Itt hát elkezdődik egy nagyon érdekes beszélgetés kettőjük között.
The Oracle's Cave, where Kain's first fateful meeting with Mobius occurred. Mobius played the role of a doddering soothsayer, stirring his pot of visions while dispensing enigmatic predictions to gullible visitors. Underneath the facade was Mobius the Time Streamer, sorcerer of the Circle of Nine, a ruthless manipulator with the power to bend time. Since his murder at Kain's hands centuries ago, these caves have stood vacant, though, like Mobius himself, they are rumored to be only a facade for a much larger, more elaborate complex. I sensed that Kain was here, and at that moment, I would have plumbed the depths of hell to find him.
At last. I must say I'm disappointed in your progress. I imagined you'd be here sooner. Tell me, did it trouble you to murder your brothers?
Did it trouble you when you ordered me into the abyss?
Eternity is relentless, Raziel. When I first stole into this chamber centuries ago, I did not fathom the true power of knowledge. To know the future, Raziel. To see its paths and streams tracing out into the infinite. As a man, I could never contain such forbidden truths. But each of us is so much more than we once were. Do you not feel with all your soul how we have become like gods? As such, are we not indivisible? As long as a single one of us stands, we are legion. Our futures are predestined. Mobius foretold mine eons ago. We each play out the parts fate has written for us. Free will is an illusion.
I found the tomb of Sarafan, Kain. How could you profane a priest by turning him into a vampire?
How could I not? One must keep his friends close, Raziel, and his enemies even closer. Who better to serve me than those whose passion transcends all notions of good and evil?
The Sarafan were saviors, defending Nosgoth from the corruption that we represent. My eyes are open, Kain.
I find no nobility in the unlife you rudely forced on my unwilling corpse.
You may have uncovered your past, but you know nothing of it.
You think the Sarafan were noble, altruistic? Oh, don't be simple.
Their agenda was the same as ours. You nearly had me, Raziel. But this is not where or how it ends. Fate promises more twists before this drama unfolds completely.
Redeemer and destroyer, pawn and messiah. Welcome, time-span soul. Welcome to your destiny. Where am I? Is the usual question. In your case, when might be more apt.
Very well, you old snake. If you'd prefer I use my bare hands.
A történetünk pedig pontosan ott folytatódik, ahol abba hagytuk. Raziel Kain után veti magát a téren és időn át, de az út végén találkozik Mobiusszal, az idő őrével. Az öreg kígyó megpróbálja befolyásolni Razielt Kain megölésére, de a vámpír ismerve kivel áll szemben, bizalmatlanul viszonyul hozzá. Mobius állítása szerint már korábbról is ismerték egymást, még amikor Sarafan pap volt, de azért Raziel tisztában van vele, hogy nagyon jó hírneve van Mobiusnak ahhoz, hogy ne bízzon benne. A Sarafan erődjének folyosóin Raziel emlékeket lát halandó emberi életéről.
Throughout the stronghold, I discovered evidence of my former nobility and my life as a Sarafan priest. This was the heritage so foully stolen from me when Kain raided my sacred crypt and defiled me. As I neared the stronghold's inner sanctum, a strange sensation crept over me. An indescribable feeling of displacement, a sense of vertigo, as reality itself appeared to warp and bend around me. The disturbance seemed to emanate from the sanctuary's furthest chapel. As I cautiously approached, the sense of dislocation intensified with each step. So this was the tomb of the beloved King William the Just, beatified here as the martyr and catalyst of Mobius's crusade. I was reminded of Kain's journey as a fledgling vampire, how Mobius coerced him to travel back in history and assassinate William, thus igniting a genocidal hatred of vampires among the citizens of Nosgoth. And here I discovered the source of the displacement, the soul reaver itself, laid out like a holy relic, and broken, apparently in the battle between William and Kain. I had not thought such a thing was possible, until, of course, Kain shattered the blade against me when he tried to strike me down. Thus, the captive spirit inhabiting the Reaver was released, and binding itself to me, became my symbiotic weapon. And so the Reaver met its former self, still imprisoned in this corporeal shell. I watched, mesmerized, as the Wraith blade uncoiled itself and snaked down the length of the physical blade. Embracing its twin, its mirror self, the reaver's long dormant spirit was now fully aroused, and for the first time, I felt the true presence of this other entity, willful, ravenous, and deranged from thousands of years of imprisonment. The reaver was now in command, and I, now merely its helpless host, felt my soul being leeched to restore the blade. But the reaver knew better than to destroy its host, and just as I neared the brink of oblivion, the blade released its hold on me. As I recovered, I realized we were now bound together in a fragile alliance. The reaver no longer merely my symbiotic weapon, but a sentient parasite competing for control.
What have you done to me, Mobius? Is this your trap?
How mine? Don't forget it was Kain who led you here, not I. While you curse me, the only soul in Nosgoth ready to guide and assist you, Kain laughs at our folly and revels in your dismay.
These blades, now coiled in sinister embrace, have inspired terror in the hearts of creatures far more durable than you, old man. Bound together as they are, I can only imagine what they could do to your soul's fragile shell.
Raziel, I beg you to stay your hand. This was none of my doing. I have sought only to aid you in your righteous quest.
Why, you're trembling, Mobius. Has your confidence abandoned you? You seem to have made a fatal error by leaving your precious staff behind. Is that where all your courage comes from?
Listen to me, Raziel. You don't know what you're doing. I have taken an enormous risk by appearing here before you, so defenseless, yet eager to prove my good intentions. If there's anything left of the Sarafan in you, you won't do this. While you threaten me, your true enemy eludes you.
Don't concern yourself with Kain, old man. He'll join you in hell soon enough. As you said, death comes for us all.
Yes, the wheel of fate demands it.
What did you say?
The wheel of fate. The inexorable cycle of death and rebirth to which all men are compelled. We serve the same God, Raziel. To strike me down would be striking God's own attendant. And I don't believe even you would take that risk.
I tire of your games, Mobius. Now that I know you fear me, I needn't concern myself with you. Kain is waiting for me.
Go then, Raziel. Seek Kain out and destroy him, in the name of the one God we both serve. You, who were once a Sarafan priest, murdered, profaned, destroyed, and reborn again from his mercy. You are now most powerfully equipped to be his agent, his instrument of restoration and retribution.
My own vengeance is motivation enough.
By my soul, you almost had me, my little blue assassin. But that'll be the one and only chance you get. I assure you of that.
So this was the legendary Janos Ordrin, reputed to have been the most ancient and diabolical vampire to have ever existed. According to folklore, he lived high in the cliffs of Nosgoth's northern mountains and preyed mercilessly on the defenseless villagers below. His reign of terror ended when the Sarafan finally hunted him down and tore his throbbing heart from his still-living body. This relic came to be known as the Heart of Darkness, and was supposedly imbued with the power to restore vampiric unlife. The Sarafan therefore guarded it carefully, lest the heart fall into the hands of their enemies. But I wondered, could Janos Ordrin truly have been as monstrous as depicted here? Or was this merely artistic license by the Sarafan, who sought to lionize themselves by demonizing their darkest enemy? Strange how my history came full circle. This chapel, I realized, was a memorial to my former Sarafan brethren and myself. All of us martyred here, and then so cruelly profaned by Kain when he imposed his gift on our noble corpses. For the first time, I beheld the image of my Sarafan self, memorialized here among my fallen comrades. It tortured me to see how noble and pure I had been, and what a vile phantasm I had become. And a profound sense of injury, of loss and betrayal welled up in me, so overwhelming I could barely contain it. All I wanted at this moment was to find Kain and destroy him. I emerged, and for the first time beheld Nosgoth in its former glory. The land overflowed with abundant life and vitality, and I knew with certainty then that the world I had left behind was nothing more than the corpse of Nosgoth, a lifeless husk bled dry by the corruption of Kain's parasitic empire. This was the fragile world Kain sacrificed to preserve his own petty life and ambition, heedless of the profound cost. The sight only deepened my resolve. I sensed that the pillars lay to the northwest, and if Kain truly waited to confront me there, I would not disappoint him.
Raziel úgy dönt, hogy elhagyja a Sarafan erődöt, és megkeresi Kaint. Nos, azt hiszem, hogy a játék ezen pontján van az, amikor elmondhatom, hogy egyfajta Shakespeare szindrómában szenved a játék, hiszen valami zseniális párbeszédet hallgathatunk végig. Nem is próbálom meg elmagyarázni, nézzétek végig, mert én a saját szavaimmal nem tudnék igazságot tenni.
The pillars of Nosgoth, pristine, whole, and uncorrupted. I had never beheld them in this undefiled state, yet something profound and indelible resonated within me at the sight.
I know you're there, Raziel.
Mobius led me to you, Kain, though I might have guessed you'd meet me here.
And if Mobius told you I was hidden on the underside of hell, would you throw yourself into oblivion to pursue me? Mobius trawls for the ignorant and unwary, hauling his gasping prey from the streams of their destinies. Stay out of his net, Raziel.
Spare me your elaborate metaphors, Kain. I have pursued you here for one purpose. You will pay for your betrayal, and balance will thus be restored to Nosgoth.
And whose will is satisfied then? The will of Raziel or Mobius?
Would I be better manipulated by you, Kain? Now, turn and face me. The chase is over.
This isn't a chase, Raziel. We are merely passengers on the wheel of destiny, describing a perfect circle to this point. We've been brought here for a reason. I've seen the beginning and the end of our story, however, and the tale is crude and ill-conceived. We must rewrite the ending of it. You and I.
Face me, Kain. Even you shouldn't die a coward's death.
Isn't it customary to grant the condemned a final request?
I recall no such courtesy from you.
Indulge me, Raziel. All I ask is that you listen. This is the sublime moment of our undoing, Raziel. The ineffable fulcrum upon which swings the entirety of our history. This is where all of Nosgoth is betrayed. In this instant, Ariel, The Balance Guardian is murdered by dark forces bent on overthrowing the pillars. Her spirit is just now tearing free, lost in the ether, trying to find its way here. You have already seen how she comes to haunt these pillars.
Bound here by your refusal to die. You are the reason this land becomes diseased. As long as you remain alive, you condemn Nosgoth to an eternity of decay.
Be still, Raziel. See this. As Ariel dies, I am being born to take her place as Balance Guardian. Such is my destiny.
My God.
At the moment of my first cry, Ariel's beloved, the Guardian Nupraptor, finds her corpse. Racked with grief and tormented by suspicions of treachery, Nupraptor plunges into a madness which overflows and infects all of the Guardians who are symbiotically bound, including me. The repercussions of Ariel's assassination were expertly calculated. The entire circle descends into madness, and I am tainted at the moment of my birth, instantly rendered incapable of fulfilling the role destiny has prepared for me.
Shall I show you the same mercy you showed the rest of the circle then? You blithely murdered them to restore their pillars, yet your hand faltered when it came to the final sacrifice. What makes you exempt, Kain? You're merely the last man standing. Why condemn me for simply carrying out what you hadn't the courage to do yourself?
Let's drop the moral posturing, shall we? We both know there's no altruism in this pursuit. Your reckless indignation led you here. I counted on it. There's no shame in it, Raziel. Revenge is motivation enough. At least it's honest. Hate me, but do it honestly. 30 years hence, I am presented with a dilemma. Let's call it a two-sided coin. If the coin falls one way, I sacrifice myself and thus restore the pillars. But as the last surviving vampire in Nosgoth, this would mean the annihilation of our species. Mobius made sure of that. If the coin lands on the reverse, I refuse the sacrifice and thus doom the pillars to an eternity of collapse. Either way, the game is rigged.
We agree then that the pillars are crucial and must be restored.
Yes, Raziel. And that's why we've come full circle to this place.
So after all this, you make my case for me. To end this stalemate, you must die so that new Guardians can be born.
Pillars don't belong to them, Raziel. They belong to us.
Your arrogance is boundless, Kain.
There's a third option. A monumental secret, hidden in your very presence here. But it's a secret you have to discover for yourself. Unearth your destiny, Raziel. It's all laid out for you here.
You said it yourself, Kain. There are only two sides to your coin.
Apparently so. But suppose you throw a coin enough times. Suppose one day it lands on its edge.
I didn't know what impulse stayed my hand, why I had so willingly allowed Kain to escape me when I had pursued him for so long. I had no reason to trust Kain after he had valued me so little, and yet I found myself intrigued by his words. I had been too cruelly used to so gullibly play his pawn, but if this world truly had secrets to divulge, I was determined to expose them.
Ez a beszélgetés, hát Razielt rávette arra, hogy egyelőre félreteszi a kettőjük közti ellentéteket, annak érdekében, hogy még többet megtudjon magáról, illetve Nosgoth történelméről. Utazásai során találkozik idézőjeles teremtőjével, az ősi istennel, akit Mobius is szolgál. A föld alatti termekben lévő festmények tanulmányozása alapján kiderül az első vámpíroknak a tetteire. Raziel bizonyítékokat fedez fel arra vonatkozóan, hogy a két ősi faj háborúzott Nosgoth távoli múltjában. Az egyik faj létrehozta az oszlopokat, hogy elűzze az ellenségeit, de az ellenséges faj, a Hilden, egy szörnyű átokkal vágott vissza.
As I entered the chamber, I sensed that it had been sealed for hundreds, perhaps thousands of years. And while this room was clearly built when the pillars were erected, I knew that no human hand could have shaped this place, and that perhaps it had never been seen by human eyes. The surrounding murals depicted a winged race, their features so like my own, but beautiful, where mine were grotesque, and angelic, while mine were demonic. I tried to decipher these images. A great war, but with combatants like none I had ever seen. The pillars, raised by this winged race, who thus defeated their adversaries. The winged beings again, writhing in agony, apparently afflicted with the same bloodthirst I had so recently suffered. And throughout the chamber, inscribed everywhere, images of the reaver itself. Was this what Kain had urged me to discover? I wondered.
Lies, Raziel. Do not be deceived.
Ah, my ancient benefactor. And I dared to hope we had parted ways forever. Silence was refreshing, but it lasted. No doubt you have a conveniently inexpressible reason for your presence here?
Do not be insolent, Raziel. I am eternally present here and everywhere, now and always. I am the still center of the turning wheel, the hub of this world's destiny.
But perhaps not so omnipotent as you'd have me believe. Your hold on me appears to be tenuous. I no longer seem to need you. Yet I'm guessing you still need me.
This impudence is unworthy of you, Raziel. Do not forget that you have a task to fulfill here. You are indebted to me.
Indebted? You would have me show gratitude for a gift I didn't ask to be bestowed? Do you forget that you forced me to inhabit this vile carcass?
I restored you to yourself, Raziel. It was Kain who destroyed you. The very enemy you've just let slip through your grasp. Do not fail me, my servant.
I serve no one. Not you, not Kain, and not your lackey Mobius.
Mobius is my good servant. I have many.
And if I tell Mobius that he's worshipping a giant squid, do you think his faith will falter?
You have grown willful, Raziel. But beware. To embrace a serpent is to invite poison into your heart. Kain is a sinuous beast. He will seduce and deceive you. You pride yourself on your free will, yet you let that degenerate deter your resolve.
I harbor no illusions about his integrity, nor anyone else's. In fact, I am beset by manipulation on all sides. I merely seek the truth.
These are the fathomless truths, Raziel. The agony of birth and death and rebirth. This is the wheel of fate, the purifying cycle which sustains all life. Vampires are an abomination, a plague which leeches this land of its spiritual strength. They obstruct the flow of life and death. Their souls stagnate in their wretched corpses. But the wheel must turn. death is inexorable and cannot be denied. Your destiny is irresistible, Raziel. You are my soul reaver, the scourge of the vampires, reaper of their apostate souls. Remain steadfast, end the vampire's parasitic curse, and restore Nosgoth. Kain's blood belongs on your hands.
Kain indeed deserves to die for condemning me to this repugnant form, but if and when I kill him, it will be for me alone to decide.
Kain destroyed you without a flicker of remorse. He tore the soul from your noble corpse, and after you had served him faithfully for 1,000 years, he discarded you in the abyss on a jealous whim. Remember your rage, Raziel. Let it guide your hand.
So, my lurking observer was exposed. The creature vanished when he realized he was discovered, but I caught a glimpse of him, and his features were distinctive enough. This was the vampire Vorador, the monstrous assassin depicted in the stronghold. Strange that a creature brazen enough to assault the circle single-handedly would avoid confronting me. Very well. If Vorador would not come to me, I would go to him. But first I needed to find some means of reaching that terrace. I recognized these arcane symbols from the chamber beneath the pillars, and realized that this shrine too was sealed to all but the bearer of the reaver. Throughout this ancient shrine, murals depicted the winged race and the apocalyptic war against their mysterious and equally inhuman adversaries. These winged beings, it seemed, were not only the architects of the pillars, but of this enigmatic place as well. And just as in the pillar's chamber, this shrine was adorned throughout with imagery of the reaver, depicted with the reverence of a holy icon. As I neared the altar, I suddenly felt the reaver quickening of its own volition. Just as in William's chapel, the balance of power tangibly shifted. Voracious and willful, the soul reaver was now in control, and I, merely its helpless puppet. The reaver plunged itself into that mysterious altar, and devouring the energy that emanated from within, drained this place of its power. Thus sated, the reaver released me, and I realized as I recovered control that these ancient shrines were forges, each purpose-built to enhance the reaver with elemental power. Concentric circles, one eclipsing the other. I recognized this symbol from the door sealing that other ancient shrine, the one I had seen in the lake outside the Sarafan stronghold. Perhaps now, armed as I was with the elemental power of darkness, I could return and gain entry.
You're a ragged excuse for a savior.
Vorador.
I see my reputation precedes me.
It does.
All good, I hope? I've been watching you since you emerged from that accursed stronghold. Strange that your arrival coincides with the corruption of the pillars. But I'm wondering, are you the catalyst of these events? Or the answer to them?
I don't know what you mean.
I will speak plainly then. I distrust your origins, stranger. Seeing you crawl from the putrid depths of Mobius's keep makes me question your purpose here. And what should I make of your appearance? Not human, clearly. and more demon than vampire. And the pillars. It is no mere coincidence that your arrival in that clearing heralded the pillars' decay. And so I ask you plainly, are you the instrument of the pillars' destruction or their salvation?
Neither.
Very well. Let us look at the other side of the coin. I have followed your journey and watched as you blithely unlocked secrets that have been sealed and forbidden for thousands of years. The path you have been treading is open to only one being. You don't know what you are, do you?
I have been many things. If you find me ignorant, enlighten me.
What's the point? This world is beyond redemption. Let the human cattle have it.
I would expect better than meek capitulation from you.
Centuries of persecution have taught me well. 500 years ago, our race was nearly exterminated by the fanatical crusades of the Sarafan. And now the same sick drama unfolds again. In merely a decade, Mobius's cutthroat citizen army has nearly accomplished what the Sarafan could not. Vampires meddling in the affairs of men. Look where it's brought us.
What am I to make of these secrets I've uncovered, then? The depictions of the winged race, the pillars, and the reaver.
Fairy tales, boy. The delusions of an ancient culture clinging to hope long after the world had discarded them. Their bloodline trickled away, until only one of the ancients remained, sustained solely by obligation and his unfaltering faith in the old prophecies. But you see, even if you are who you appear to be, it no longer matters. You're simply too late. Janos Audron, the Reaver Guardian, the last of the ancients, and my maker, was murdered by the Sarafan nearly 5 centuries ago. He alone would have the answers you seek, but his secrets died with him. I don't know how you've come even this far without his guidance, or without the Reaver, stolen these 500 years ago by the Sarafan. I'm afraid, my friend, that you and all of us are out of luck.
I had no less reason to trust Vorador than anyone else I had met. In fact, the ancient vampire was the most forthright being I had encountered thus far. If Janos Audron was the key to all this, then I would find him, and Mobius's time-streaming device would provide me passage. But first, I had to find a way back into the stronghold, and I suspected I would find the means within the lake's mysterious shrine.
Ah, my wayward child returns.
Having unearthed more than you'd like, I suspect. What am I to make of these ruins that litter the land, and these images here in this chamber?
Merely the deceits of a failed civilization. You are being misled, Raziel. This ancient race hoped to manipulate the future with these scrawled misdirections. You must tread carefully. There are dark forces at work in this world, bent on subverting your true destiny.
I have no doubt of that. The question is, am I in their presence right now?
Your arrogance will spell your demise, Raziel. Deny my will, and the arc of your destiny will reach a sudden conclusion.
Your threats are unmoving. Even now, I'm beyond your reach.
My reach is longer than you realize. This is a very dangerous game you're playing, Raziel.
Raziel arra is rádöbben, hogy talán az, aki a legjobban el tudná magyarázni a sorsát, és hogy a kérdéseire választ kapjon, meg kell találnia Janos ordrent. Viszont ebben az időben Janos már régen halott, tehát vissza kell térnie az időbe, így hát Raziel visszamegy a Sarafan erődítménybe, hogy újra használja Mobius időgépét. Itt viszont újra találkozik Kainnel, és itt pedig egy szintén érdekes beszélgetés veszi kezdetét, és Kain megmutatja Razielnek, hogy mit jelent az, hogy a szabad akarat csak egy illúzió.
Show yourself, Kain.
Here, Raziel. Everything is decided here. You cannot comprehend the magnitude, the rapture and the tragedy of this moment. And yet you must, if Nosgoth is to be dragged from the wreckage of its damnation.
I understand only this, Kain. That you and Mobius have impelled me to this moment simply means I can trust neither of you. I don't know who's pulling the strings, but it no longer matters, because I'm cutting them. I set my own course from here.
If it were only that simple.
Your fatalism is tiresome, Kain.
And profoundly ingrained, Raziel. You must understand. Our presence here doesn't alter history. You and I meet here because we are compelled to. We have always met here. History is irredeemable. Drop a stone into a rushing river. The current simply courses around it and flows on as if the obstruction were never there. You and I are pebbles, Raziel, and have even less hope of disrupting the time stream. The continuum of history is simply too strong, too resilient. Except, then how do we explain William here? The beloved boy king turned tyrant. In my youth, I witnessed William's rise to power and his transformation into the nemesis who laid waste to Nosgoth.
Keep your distance, Kain.
Years later, I stumble upon a chance to journey back in history, unaware that the entire affair has been carefully orchestrated by Mobius. In my wisdom, I seize this opportunity to murder the young king before he can ravage Nosgoth, and thereby provide the catalyst Mobius needs to ignite a genocidal war against our race.
I warn you, no further.
This one reckless act unravels the skein of history. The nemesis never becomes the nemesis. William dies a martyred saint. I, the vampire assassin, become the author of my own species' extinction, and Mobius profits from it all. I destroyed a tyrant only to create one far worse. But how can it be so? How, if history is immutable? The answer is here in this room, Raziel. Mobius propelled William and me together, but ensured first that we were both armed with the Soul Reaver. The Reaver is the key. Two incarnations of the blade meet in time and space. A paradox is created, a temporal distortion powerful enough to derail history.
Is this your sorcery?
Not mine, Raziel. Yours. You have nothing to fear from me, Raziel. You hold all the cards.
Then perhaps I should test your sincerity. If what you say is true, you should be terrified. I could kill you here and now.
And so you do, Raziel.
What's happening?
We're hurtling towards our destinies, Raziel. What you feel is is the pull of history rushing to meet us. This is where history and destiny collide. If you truly believe in free will, Raziel, now is the time to prove it. Kill me now, and we both become pawns of history, dragged down the path of an artificial destiny. I was ordained to assume the role of Balance Guardian in Nosgoth, while you were destined to be its savior. But the map of my fate was redrawn by Mobius, and so in turn was yours. This is madness! Fight it, Raziel. This moment does not have to be an ending. It can become a prelude. I can't. You can, Raziel. Look inside and see that it is so. You have the power to reshape our inevitable futures. Poor William. What is this? History. A pause, a paradox, Raziel. Even now, the time stream strains to divert itself, finding its old course blocked by your refusal to destroy me. The future is reshuffling itself to accommodate your monumental decision. This is where we restore ourselves, Raziel, and reclaim our intended destinies. It may yet be possible for me to assume my role as Balance Guardian and return the pillars to their rightful inheritors.
To the vampires. And this is the destiny you have urged me to discover. I don't know what game you and Mobius are playing, Kain, but I refuse to be your pawn. Unlike you, I still revere whatever shred of humanity I've managed to preserve. You will not use me as the instrument of your messianic delusions.
Very well, Raziel. I'll not ask you to trust me. Your truths are for you to discover alone.
Humble words for one who presumes to teach me a lesson at every turn.
And continue your journey and learn your own lessons, Raziel. Remember, Mobius led you here, but you walk away unfettered. A champion of free will and conqueror of false histories. There is much more for you to unearth, if you have the heart for the truth and the will to see it.
Ah, yes. I like that look on your face, Mobius. You really don't know what to do now, do you, old man? Here you are, caught without your damned staff. And I suspect things aren't progressing quite as you'd hoped. You're not used to the fly turning to confront you in your web, are you?
Kain's devious influence has poisoned your mind, Raziel. Now you see betrayal everywhere, even in your closest allies.
We were never allies, Mobius. Conspirators, perhaps. Briefly.
Why did you not kill Kain when you had the chance? He was at your mercy.
Precisely. I had a choice, and I chose mercy. And now I know your sordid little secret. The significance of that displacement I felt when the two reavers came together. Strangely enough, I was enlightened by the devious Kain, not by you. In fact, I've learned much more than you counted on. I understand now how you've tried to manipulate all of history for your own personal gain. But now all your little schemes are whirling in ruin around you, aren't they? All because I chose to exert my will for once, rather than obey the demands of sorcerers and spirits and demons, all singing the same tiresome refrain, "Kill Kain." I'm setting my own path from here, Mobius. I intend to discover the truth behind all of this.
But you condemn us all with this impetuous act.
Hardly impetuous. It took all the will I could muster. Has my refusal to kill Kain reshuffled your carefully stacked deck of cards?
You really think that you're exercising your free will, Raziel? You're simply Kain's servant.
I do not serve Kain. I merely did not kill him.
Raziel, do not forget your purpose here. You are destined to be the savior of Nosgoth.
Oh, I'm sick of hearing that particular phrase. As for saving Nosgoth, so far I see precious little reason to bother. And I'll choose my own purpose from here on out, Time Streamer. Right now, I choose to manipulate you for a change. Go. In there.
What are you doing?
Come, Mobius. You're a cunning serpent. You'll piece it together, I imagine. This era is of no further use to me. You will operate this device to provide me passage. I want to see the world in a simpler time, before the Sarafan began their crusade.
And what about Kain? You're leaving your core behind.
You kill him if it's so damned important.
You need only touch the two poles of the switch, and the device will transport you. But I urge you to reconsider.
You've lost your powers of persuasion, old man. Rot here and forget me.
Miután ez a drámai beszélgetés véget ért, Raziel összetalálkozik Mobiusszal, aki pedig rá fogja venni arra, hogy küldje őt vissza az időbe, amikor Janos Ordrön még élt. Viszont Mobius nem a múltba küldte, hanem a jövőbe, hogy még több mérget öntsenek a szívébe, de ez nem sikerült. Raziel átlát ezeken a hazugságokon, legalábbis ezeken.
And if I required further evidence, I needed only to behold the gruesome trophy Mobius held aloft. A severed head of Vorador. The final triumphant kill of Mobius's cutthroat mob. His execution marked the annihilation of the vampires. Far from channeling me into Nosgoth's past, Mobius had propelled me over a century into its ghastly future. The intent behind this little detour was unmistakable. Having failed to make me his obedient assassin, Mobius intended to keep me ignorant of my true destiny, which clearly lay in Nosgoth's past. While his deception only reinforced my purpose, Mobius had effectively stranded me here. This left me no course but to explore the era I now occupied and see what changes the century had wrought following Kain's ill-fated decision. Perhaps time had cleared a path for me into the mountains, where I might unearth more clues behind the mystery of Janos Ordrön.
Raziel.
What pathetic charade is this now, Mobius?
No charade, Raziel. Only the entreaties of this martyred spirit.
Your pleas mean nothing to me after all your deceit. You have propelled me into Nosgoth's future, Mobius, and left me stranded here.
I am truly sorry, Raziel, but it was necessary. Consider it the last valiant act of a doomed man. You have strayed from your purpose, and now behold the result. Gaze upon the wasteland you and Kain offered together.
I fail to see how I'm responsible.
You spared Kain, and by doing so, you have released a multitude of horrors upon this world. I can accept that Kain has murdered me. As the Time Guardian, I foresaw that incident long before it occurred, and I take some small comfort in the fact that Kain remains the sole survivor of his vile breed. But you have single-handedly made my sacrifice meaningless.
Your argument is disingenuous, Time Streamer. I cannot see how killing or sparing Kain's future self would alter these events. This wasteland was created by Kain's original refusal at the Pillars. And amidst all these twists and turns, that event has never changed. You are cunning with this. I think you've gotten tangled in your own way.
As Kain clings to his precious seat of power, the pillars sink into a mire of decay, dragging all of Nosgoth down with them.
I don't think this has anything to do with the Pillars, or Kain's failure to sacrifice himself. I think you're simply afraid, because you don't know what he's up to. He's a wild card, isn't he? And you don't want his influence in your game. Which is why you wanted me to eliminate him. Well, now that he survived, you have no idea what's coming, do you? Maybe, for the first time in your entire life, you're terrified that he may have truly found a third option out of the dilemma you orchestrated for him.
Kain's lies have added your mind. Leave this place and trouble my spirit no more.
If you even are a spirit, you've forgotten. I have a way to tell for sure. If you're willing to risk it. I didn't think so. Either way, you lose. These were the pillars so familiar to my blighted eyes. But now that I had begun to learn their true significance, I regarded the pillars' destruction with a new, enlightened sense of horror. And I questioned now whether Kain's simple refusal, his mere ambition, could truly have caused such devastation. I felt that some darker influence was at work here. As I approached, I discerned the spirit of Ariel, bound here now for more than a century.
Forever am I bound, hope abandoned, my spirit tethered to this place. What destroyed the circle could not touch me, for I was newly dead and beyond harm's reach. I alone was spared the descent into madness, and Kain alone was spared the pain of death. When Napraptor's poison seized Kain even in the safety of the womb, much more than just his destiny was lost. All of Nosgoth lost balance. Consider us now, both of us less than we once were. I, pure but insubstantial, and Kain terribly real, but corrupted.
Your imprisonment here has deranged you, spirit. You fixate on Kain because you believe he is the tether that binds you here. But we both know he is not the author of your agony. The pillars were subverted by dark forces, invited by the Guardians themselves. The more I learn of your circle, the more I see a tangle of nested manipulations.
Kain handed them their victory. They sought to topple the pillars, and he was their willing instrument.
Or was he their unwilling pawn? Would it blunt your wrath to know that Kain's dilemma was calculated to bring the pillars down, regardless of the choice he made? And that the devastation would have been even greater had he chosen the path you would prescribe for him?
You are a subtle, deceitful creature. But your clever arguments do not absolve Kain. He must die for the pillars to be restored. There is no other way.
Then consider this more ominous possibility. What if Kain's death does not restore the pillars? Consider that it may simply be too late, that this world may be beyond redemption, and that you may be bound here eternally.
Why do you hound me, demon? You can see that I am captive here. Show me some mercy.
Like the mercy you showed your fellow guardians when you set Kain on them? Or the mercy you showed Kain when you kept him ignorant of his destiny while you used him as the scourge of the circle? Or perhaps like the mercy you showed your beloved Naprapta when you made him Kain's first kill?
You are cruel. Why do you torment me?
I'm merely looking for answers, Ariel. Ah, very well. I'll leave you in peace. But know this about you and this purgatory from which you long to escape. You're merely at the threshold.
Raziel, the failed assassin. You had Kain at your mercy, but lacked the courage to fulfill the act. And now you see the wasteland wrought by the tyrant's hand, by his selfish decision to preserve his own life, even when it meant sacrificing the whole world. This is the fate of Nosgoth, as long as Kain remains alive.
An ironic condemnation, given this guilty scene. One would think you'd torn down the pillars single-handedly. What are you trying to obliterate as you drag your loathsome body through this chamber? And why, as Nosgoth descends into madness and misery, do you appear to thrive? Things in this world, I am learning, are rarely what they seem. You, apparently, are no exception.
I am the engine of life, the source of Nosgoth's very existence. I am the hub of the wheel, the origin of all life, the devourer of death.
Or maybe you're just hungry. Could it be as simple as that? Wouldn't that be poetic irony? The great adversary of the vampires turns out to be the biggest parasite of them all.
Do not test my patience, Raziel. I made you, and I will unmake you if I become so inclined.
As your agent, I am beyond death.
There are fates worse than death, Raziel.
Oh, I see you now as you truly are. A cancer. A spooling parasite burrowed deep in the heart of this world.
Go now. Play out your pitiful rebellion and take your place among the destroyed, the used, and the damned. But know this. You are mine for eternity. You have always been, and will always be, my soul reaver.
Beyond this edifice lay my sole hope of escaping this demon-infested wasteland. The time-streaming device contained therein offered my only prospect of journeying back into Nosgoth's early history. Unless I discovered some means of breaking the seal, I was condemned to be stranded here eternally. The passage of time had indeed cleared my way forward, enabling me to explore the northern mountains of Nosgoth. I was anxious to discover if some evidence of Janos Audron's existence might still remain. Here I discovered the quaint hamlet of Ushtenheim, now long abandoned and collapsing into ruin. Legend claimed that Janos Audron terrorized its villagers until the Sarafan hunters ferreted him out and destroyed him. If there was any truth to the old tales, the lair of the infamous vampire would not be far away. This edifice was clearly not crafted by human architects. As the figure beneath the balcony silently attested, these were the Ares of winged beings. Undoubtedly, I stood before the mountain refuge of the legendary Janos Order, but the entire sanctuary lay in ruin, collapsed under the force of some ancient cataclysm. As I suspected, the time streamer's deception ensured that I was centuries too late to unearth anything of consequence here. With nothing behind me but the wasteland I had traversed, I resolved to press on and explore these canyons further. Oh no. Every time you turn up, something monumental and terrible happens. I don't think I have the stomach for it.
No drama this time, Braziel.
You are persistent, crossing time like this to follow me. Still waiting for that coin of yours to land on its edge.
I'm biding my time. I see that Mobius has played a little trick on you.
Yes. He clearly doesn't want me to meet this Janos Ordrin.
Perhaps. Or maybe he merely hoped that it would harden your heart against me, to see this wasteland which I single-handedly authored.
My heart doesn't need hardening, Kain. If I even suspected that destroying you would make any difference, I would do it this instant.
I knew you'd see through them, Raziel. Janos is indeed the key to your destiny, but you'll need to find your own way back into Nosgoth's path. Make no mistake, though, Raziel. You and I are now in great danger. We are irritants here. Malevolent forces are being marshaled to eliminate us.
You talk as though we're allies.
Regardless of your sentiments, Raziel, in their eyes, we are.
Well, they're certainly trying to eliminate you, Kain. There can be no doubt of that. I am assaulted relentlessly with demands for your demise. Whatever it is that you're plotting, they're scared to death of you. As for me, I suspect they made a grave error when they allowed my unique resurrection. I don't think they know how to destroy me.
You mustn't underestimate them, Raziel.
And who exactly is this diabolical they to which we keep referring? If there's some grand conspiracy going on, the right hand doesn't appear to know what the left is doing. Even Mobius seems to be caught out at every turn.
Mobius is a puppet, Raziel. Haven't you realized that yet? That's the sweetest irony in all of this. Nosgoth, great manipulator, is their plaything. But the ones pulling the strings haven't shown their faces yet.
They don't like us unwriting their carefully choreographed history, though, do they?
You must understand, Raziel, we haven't unwritten history, we've merely rewritten. The future flows around our petty actions, finding the path of least resistance, while admitting only the slightest alterations. This is the reshuffling you felt when you refused to kill me. And remember, Raziel, we are irritants in this regard as well. History will not allow the introduction of a paradox.
And if events cannot be reshuffled to accommodate the change?
It is the irritant who's expelled. Bear in mind that this may be exactly the outcome our enemies are trying to provoke. We must tread very carefully.
No choice but to act purely on blind faith. There was no way to tell what error this device was tuned to, and I had neither the knowledge nor the means to set the machine myself. I hesitated only briefly. Then, throwing the switch, I hurled myself into oblivion and relinquished my will to the hand of fate. Beyond all hope and against all probability, it seemed that the device had unerringly delivered me to the era I sought. For these were Sarafan banners, and these vampires apparently the victims of their crusade. The coincidence seemed too convenient to naively ascribe to fate. But whether my opportune arrival had been orchestrated by Mobius, some other influence, I didn't know. If Janos Audrin still lived, I would find him. But I was wary of further deception, and resolved to tread carefully. For all the butchery of Mobius's crusade, this massacre was somehow more chilling. The killing fields of the Sarafan betrayed a kind of orderly ruthlessness, the cold-blooded righteousness of the true believer.
By all that is holy!
Here at last, in the flesh, I beheld my former brothers in arms, the warrior priests of the Sarafan Order, their lives devoted solely to the annihilation of the vampire plague. And while I confess, I felt a twinge of longing, a pang of grief for what I had believed was my lost virtue, I regarded them now with none of the reverence I formerly felt. For I had seen the human face of the vampires, and now I beheld the monstrousness of these men. After my long journey, I finally stood on the threshold of enlightenment. For here was Janos Audrin's mountain retreat, intact and unblemished. The upheaval that would one day topple this ancient edifice had not yet occurred. And while I had no certainty that Janos still lived, this scene boded well, for I presumed that the collapse of the retreat must have followed the ancient vampire's demise. There was only one obstacle: how to reach the balcony suspended at that maddening height, so far beyond my reach. For this was the architecture of winged creatures, and the tattered ruins of my wings were of no use. I would need to devise some other means into that mountain. The mountain's interior was hollow, I discovered, and graced with soaring architecture unique to its creators. As with the outer facade, these balconies and galleries could only be reached by those gifted with flight. With only my ruined wings to carry me, this towering labyrinth seemed impassable. The object of my quest lay just beyond my grasp. For here, suspended at the apex of the chamber, was the threshold that surely led to the great vampire himself. I didn't know whether Janos Audrin was the monster depicted in the stronghold, or one of the noble creatures memorialized among the ruins of the ancient vampires. But I didn't care. Demon or angel, he alone held the key to my destiny.
Janos Audrin? It is heartening after all these years to hear my name spoken without contempt. Razia? My child, what have they done to you?
I have been dragged through hell and back. All it seems to reach this moment. But I don't yet know why. For thousands of years I have waited, alone here, losing faith. At the time of the binding, 9 guardians were called to serve the pillars, and I was summoned as the 10th guardian, the keeper of the reaver, the weapon of our salvation. Over time, our race died out, until I alone remained, sustained only by my obligation to you and by my guardianship of the blade.
And the other 9? Why did their guardianship not sustain them?
I don't know. As our race dwindled, the humans prospered. I have watched over the centuries as our history faded into myth and finally receded altogether. The humans have forgotten us entirely and claimed the pillars for themselves, wholly ignorant of their true purpose. To them, I am merely a devil, the origin of their vampire plague.
Why would the pillars summon human guardians then, if they are meant to be served by vampires?
The pillars choose their guardians from birth, Raziel, and vampires are no longer born. This is the crux of our dilemma, and this is the terrible irony. With their vampire purge, the members of the Circle have assaulted the very architects of the pillars they are sworn to protect. They have embarked on a treacherous path. With every vampire they kill, the humans are slitting their own throats. They know I'm up here, beyond their reach, and it terrifies them. You can see how they flaunt their kills to torment me, or perhaps simply to lure me out. They have this foolish notion that destroying me will somehow topple our entire bloodline. Thankfully, we're not that fragile.
I have seen them mustering their forces in the village below.
Yes. I don't know what they're plotting, but I fear our time may be bitterly short.
Mankind seems to have brought you only torment and grief. You must hate them.
They fear what they don't understand, and they despise what they fear. But no, I do not hate them.
Vorador does.
He has suffered much. He cannot forgive them.
Should they be forgiven?
They don't understand what they're doing. They are simply unenlightened and vulnerable to manipulation.
So, it's all true then, what Kain and Vorador have told me. I really am some kind of unholy vampire messiah.
Unholy? No. Messiah, perhaps.
I don't like that word. It smells of martyrdom.
Raziel, your role in this world's destiny is more crucial and more benevolent than you've allowed yourself to believe. Your journey will not be easy. Dark powers are allied against you. But I think you already know this. You appear to have been cruelly tested. The binding must be secured, Raziel. The pillars are the lock.
And the reaver is the key.
Yes.
The reaver is here. Why do I feel nothing?
The most formidable weapon ever forged by our swordsmiths. They infused the blade with vampiric energy, empowering the reaver to drain our enemies of their precious lifeblood.
As Janos presented the blade, an inexplicable sense of dread crept over me, more palpable than anything I'd felt before. I was at once horribly repelled by the sword, and yet irresistibly compelled to touch it, to take it up. Please, take it away from me.
I fear you have been followed.
You must save yourself, Raziel. Janos! No!
My surroundings whirled sickeningly, and I found myself transported safely away from the ambush to an adjacent chamber. Janos had delivered me from the Sarafan, selflessly forfeiting his own safety to preserve my life. And now I feared that my newfound mentor would be slaughtered by the very crusaders I had so recently revered. The irony pierced me, and with dawning horror, I realized that I had been duped by Mobius from the beginning. For the Sarafan had simply followed the path I gullibly blazed through this sanctuary, and had arrived bearing Mobius' staff. Thus armed, they had Janos at their mercy. Through the door, I could hear them battling, less than a dozen paces away. But it may as well have been 1,000 miles, for this barrier was sealed by elemental forces I did not possess. It seemed Janos had conveyed me into the heart of the fire shrine. I thought perhaps if I could galvanize the forge and imbue the reaver in time, I might have a slim chance of saving Janos from his grisly fate.
Look at his black heart. How it still beats.
The fiend intends to bury us alive. Raziel, we must get out of here.
Remember the sword!
Forgive me. I'm sorry. I failed you.
No, Razia. Perhaps this was my true purpose. Simply to save your life this once.
While I have taken yours.
Embrace your destiny, Razia. You must reclaim the Reaver. It was forged for you and you alone. Without it, there is no hope.
As I backed away from Janos's body, I was overwhelmed by a sense of self-loathing so deep I could barely contain it. In that instant, I rejected all that I ever was, and embraced the role Janos had safeguarded for me so patiently throughout the centuries. I knew then what I had to do, the task for which I was uniquely prepared. I would pursue the Sarafan dogs to their loathsome fortress and avenge Janos Audrin's murder. Mobius would pay dearly for his treachery, and my Sarafan brethren would reap the horrors they had sown. I would retake the stolen Reaver, which was rightfully mine. And finally, when all these debts had been paid, I would reclaim Janos Audrin's heart from their filthy, unworthy hands. If the heart was truly imbued with the power to restore vampiric unlife, its highest purpose was clear to me. I would restore the heart to Janos,
and thus undo the vile crime committed by my abominable former self.
We've been expecting you, little Raziel.
So, these demonic pests were not merely the product of Nosgoth's corrupted future, for here they were, hurtling back over 5 centuries to pursue me. These creatures, I suspected, were minions of the unseen forces that had hoped to control me. This was the tangible expression of their displeasure. These demons were unleashed as the penalty for my disobedience.
Nosgoth. Let me enlighten you, poor Raziel. You shall not pass. You have failed me, Raziel.
I wonder, Old One. Did you truly resurrect me, or were you simply there when I awakened from my torment in the abyss? I suspect you found me merely convenient, dropped in your lair by Kain, indestructible for some reason, a durable and gullible tool for you to manipulate. This one thing I readily admit. I have been used by others time and again, but always I seem to stray from their path. What is it about me, demon, that makes me such an unreliable instrument? Why do I survive one trial after another, on and on, in an endless succession of humiliating deaths and resurrections? It seems there is much more to my destiny and my history than I know. Perhaps more than you know as well. Suddenly and inexplicably, I discovered the reaver suspiciously laid across my path. Again, I sensed nothing of that temporal distortion, the peculiar sense of displacement I had felt when I encountered the reaver in William's chapel. Cornered here with the blade, I suffered the same nameless dread that I had experienced when Janos first presented the reaver to me. I felt at once repelled by the blade, and yet overwhelmingly compelled to seize it.
So, Raziel, here we are finally. You have no choice but to confront me now, and I am not so foolish as I've let you believe. We have business to conclude.
You knew I would lead the Sarafan to Janos, you vile bastard. You've been orchestrating my every move. My destiny is an amusement to you.
It was fun while it lasted. I think not, Raziel. Malik, do not let this creature leave. He poses a danger to the circle. Poor, deluded Raziel. Did you somehow imagine you had the guile to change history on me? I'm the time streamer. I knew your every intention before you did, you imbecile.
They can feast on your corpses!
Lord Mobius, there is trouble within. The circle is under attack.
Fast, Malik. This one is the real danger to us.
What are you trying to concoct here, Mobius?
You toxic creature. Did you imagine I'd simply allow you to run loose, corrupting everything you encounter?
I admit that I've underestimated you to this point, Mobius. It's a mistake I won't repeat.
Wrong again, Raziel. Now, Malik, bolt the door.
Using his staff to disable my Wraith blade, Mobius effectively disarmed me.
leaving me with only one choice of weapon. And yet I confess, it was not the lack of options, but blind rage that made me take up the reaver. In my fury, it felt as though my hand had acted of its own will. And now, that same hand clutched the hilt with unyielding strength, and I felt a constrained tingling, a remote but palpable sense of longing, as the disabled Wraith blade tried vainly to embrace its physical twin. I recognize these two as my former brethren, in life as Sarafan, and in unlife as Kain's vampire sons. Melchiah and Zephon, the weakest of Kain's brood. These bastards had no idea what future lay in store for them, how they would become the very thing they so despised. The reaver hummed with ravenous anticipation. Janos had called it a vampiric blade, endowed with the power to drain its victims of their lifeblood. I was eager to see what the reaver would do to these two. As Melchiah and Zephon fell before my blade, I felt the reaver's bloodthirst as keenly as I ever had when I was still a vampire. I could sense the boundary between us dissolving. The reaver was consumed with my rage, and I was intoxicated by its bloodlust. The blade had a vitalizing effect on me. My physical energy no longer decayed over time, and the wounds inflicted by my foes healed almost instantly. The reaver had made me invincible.
Have you come to reclaim the monster's black heart?
You'll have to get through us first.
My former brethren, Duma and Rahab, confronted me next. This all seemed so elegantly choreographed. Exhilarated by the reaver, I was drunk with revelations. I could finally appreciate the delicious irony of Kain's blasphemous private joke. And I reveled as I colluded with him across the centuries. For it was I who put these bastards in their tomb, thus providing the corpses for Kain to raise as his vampire sons a millennium from now.
Get back to the pit you crawled from, demon.
And here at last was my brother Turel, who along with Duma would bear me into the abyss without questioning Kain's command. So dutiful and righteous, even as a vampire. I guess some habits die hard. The vampire Turel had eluded my vengeance. The Sarafan Turel would not. So, vampire, here we are. You've destroyed my brethren, and now you've come for me. You'll find I'm not such easy prey. I don't want to kill you, but I will if I must. Return the heart to me, and we can end this now. So, you've come to avenge that filthy parasite and reclaim his foul heart. You're a righteous fiend, aren't you? Apparently I am. No, vampire. This is where it ends. But you won't be leaving this room. Now, let's finish this. I'll make it mercifully quick. As you did for Janos? No, that beast had eluded us for far too long.
would have been ashamed ending too quickly. It's ironic, really. The great Janos Ordrin turned out to be no challenge at all. Thanks to you. Did you hear his cowardly screams when I tore that black heart out of his carcass? I renounce you. And so it ends. My history comes full circle. Sensing its twin, the Wraith blade uncoiled itself from me, and instead wound lovingly around its former self. I felt its grip loosen, and as the blade left me, its absence chilled me more than its presence ever had. A foreboding sense of emptiness and loss stole over me, and a terrible revelation gathered like a storm at the edge of my awareness. With all other foes exhausted, the conjoined blades turned themselves on me, and I realized, finally, why I had sensed nothing when Janos offered me the blade. The reaver was never forged to be a soul-stealing weapon. The ravenous, soul-devouring entity trapped in the blade was, and always had been, me. This is why the blade was destroyed when Kain tried to strike me down. The reaver could not devour its own soul. The paradox shattered the blade. So, this was my terrible destiny. To play out this purgatorial cycle for all eternity. I could not bear it. Despair overwhelmed me. You. Are you enjoying this game? Don't fight it, Raziel. Give into it. Was this your destiny for me all along? Trust me. I felt myself weakening, unable to hold on any longer. The reaver was too strong. The compulsion to simply let go, too great. And then, a growing sense of vertigo and the familiar displacement. The paradoxical moment when my twin soul hovered both outside and inside the reaver blade. This was the instant, the glimmer of temporal distortion Kain had been counting on all along. This was the edge of the coin, the minute flicker of probability upon which Kain had gambled everything. Now you are free to reclaim your true destiny, Raziel. Behind Kain's eyes, I could see new memories blooming and dying as history labored to reshuffle itself around this monumental obstruction. And I could see by the dawning horror on his face that perhaps we had strained history too far this time. That by trying to alter my fate, he may have introduced a fatal paradox. My God. The Hilden! We walked right into their trap. Raziel, Janos must stay dead. But Kain's warning was lost as I slipped into the spirit realm, too weak to maintain my physical form. And there, waiting for me as always, was the reaver, the Wraith blade, my own soul, twinned and bound eternally to me. And I realized that I could never escape my terrible destiny. I had merely postponed it. History abhors a paradox.
És így jutunk el a következő epizódunkig, a Defiance-ig. Ugyanazt az idővonalat és a korábbi pontjait fedi le közvetlenül a Reaver 2 után. Kain visszatér a Sarafanhoz, hogy megkeresse Mobiust, az idő őrzőjét, és megtudja, mi történt Raziellel, és hogy hogyan változtatta meg az idővonalat, bár újfenti találkozásuk egyáltalában nem volt egyszerű.
Yes, I understand. It will be done. The stage is set. You needn't linger in the shadows, Kain. It has been a long time, hasn't it?
No banter, Mobius. You know why I'm here.
Yes, Raziel. You sought to introduce your own pawn into this game, and now he's been swept from the board.
By your hand, I suspect. Where is he?
Perhaps you should ask, when? How humiliating it must be for you to come begging at my doorstep for answers.
Enough wordplay.
Don't threaten me. You see, I have the upper hand. How remarkable that the great Kain should succumb to the scepter's power like any common vampire. Still so arrogant after all these years, thinking you've devised some brilliant plan. You know nothing. You have read the signs, but missed their meaning. You believe you are that myth of vampire prophecy, the scion of balance, and that Raziel holds the key to fulfilling your destiny. But your messianic delusions have blinded you to Raziel's true nature. You have no idea what you've unleashed. There was a time when you might have heeded wise counsel when it was offered. Now, your vanity has made you witless. You will have to learn the truth for yourself. You'll be needing this. Your strength will return after I have departed. But by then, you will have more urgent concerns than pursuing me. Perhaps, when we next meet, you will have learned a little humility.
These strange creatures seem to manifest from the very shadows.
Mobius's attempt at stopping me was not one of his better efforts. When I found him, it would be my turn to offer a few surprises.
Here you are at last. I see you found a fragment of the balance emblem. This will be of even further use to you, if you can find the other three. Now, shall we?
Yes. Let us continue our conversation, but on a somewhat different footing. Now, what do you have to tell me, Mobius?
You cannot kill me. We both know that this is not how or when I die.
Death is not the only possible outcome.
Your delusions of fulfilling the vampire's foolish prophecies have badly distorted your judgment. And Raziel is not what you think.
You dare imagine what I think.
So, you prevented Raziel's soul from entering the reaver. Do you believe for a moment that by this you have averted your fate? Or his? Or that of Nosgoth itself? Your manipulations are pathetic.
Yet Raziel retains his free will, and that's what frightens you, isn't it, Mobius? You cannot see his path, and so you cannot control it.
And neither can you. Yes, Raziel is shrouded from us, but we see the ripples of his potential actions, and every path he might choose leads to the same outcome.
He will kill you, Kain. In sparing Raziel, you have written your own death sentence.
You still have not answered the question I came to ask. Where is Raziel?
He is not, in a true sense, here. Not now.
Don't try my patience, Mobius. What have you done with him?
He is contained. In time, it may be safe to release him. His destiny must be completed. He will enter the sword. But until that time, he is dangerous. Far more dangerous than you could understand.
And your incontrovertible evidence?
The answers are plain, if you know where to look. Go west of the pillars. There you will find a testament written in stone.
But stones too can lie.
Kain megtalálja, amit keresett, és elutazik, hogy megkeresse a válaszait a vámpírok ősi fellegvárában. Kain falfestményeket fedez fel küldetése során, amelyek egy ősi háborút mesélnek a Nosgothban élő első fajok, az ősök és a hildenek között. Nosgoth oszlopaival egy másik dimenzióban elzárták a hildeneket, a hildenek megátkozták ezt az ősi fajt vérszomjjal, meddőséggel és halhatatlansággal, és ezek voltak ugyebár az ősök, akik így lettek az első vámpírok. Kain felfedezi a falfestmények alapján, hogy megjövendölték, hogy mindkét fajnak lesz egy bajnoka, egy vámpírbajnok a reaverrel felfegyverkezve, és egy hilden bajnok egy lángoló karddal. Mivel birtokában van a reavernek, Kain úgy hiszi, hogy ő a megjövendölt vámpírbajnok, viszont a két bajnok csatájának kimenetele továbbra is kétértelmű. Raziel története pedig 500 évvel később kezdődik, a Blood Omen idejében. Raziel, akit az ősi isten fogságban tart, megszökik a gazdája elől, és ő is Nosgothban jár, csak az idő más, abban a reményben, hogy megtalálja a módját, hogy elkerülje a sorsát, és hogy bebörtönözzék a reaverbe. Miközben Raziel a saját sorsa után kutat, rengeteg olyan helyet talál meg, ami az ősi vámpírokhoz köthető. Ráadásul megtalálja azokat az ősi vámpírokat, legalábbis a szellemeiket, amik valaha az oszlopokat őrizték, de öngyilkosságot követtek el, hogy visszakerüljenek az ő istenükhöz. Azzal, hogy a lidérc pengét átítatja az ő lelkükkel, Raziel különböző elementális erőkkel ruházza fel a lidérc pengéjét. Miután a reaver készítője, Vorador közölte vele, hogy csak az elhunyt Janos Ordren adhatja meg neki a keresett válaszokat, Raziel Avernusbe utazik, hogy megtalálja Janos szívét és feltámassza őt. Raziel szintén talál egy falfestményt a hildenekről és az ősökről, amint az ősök öngyilkosságot követnek el halhatatlanságuk rémületében. Raziel később rájön, hogy ennek az az oka, hogy az ősök az ősi istent imádták, aki elrendelte, hogy minden léleknek forognia kell az élet és halál körforgásában, amelyet a sors kerekének ismertek. Mivel halhatatlanok voltak a hildenátok miatt, lelkük nem tudta követni ezt a körforgást többé. Raziel is megtalálja két megjövendölt bajnoknak a falfestményét is, és ő pedig úgy érzi, hogy a hilden bajnokra hasonlít, hiszen a lángoló kard, akárcsak a lidérc penge ugyanúgy néz ki, mint az övé. Kain a múltban felfedezi a vámpírok fellegvárában a legmélyebb szobákat.
For my ancient ancestors, the dark gift was clearly a curse, damning them to a kind of spiritual purgatory. But why were they compelled to seal this chamber so securely? Perhaps the lock was not meant to keep intruders out, but to imprison something within.
Kain, scion of balance, savior of Nosgoth.
What is this?
Your arrival is foretold. The fates have willed it.
Is that so?
I am the oracle of your ancestors. I can provide the answers you require. You needn't speak. I know your mind. You seek knowledge of your creature Raziel. This I can offer, if you will look. He has found the body of Janos Ordren. He journeys now to Avernus Cathedral to seek the heart of darkness. You know what this means.
And why would I trust your prophecies?
These events are already written just as you feared. But there is still time. He can be stopped.
If Avernus is in flames, Raziel is 5 centuries beyond my reach.
I may aid you in this regard as well. This portal will transport you in time to the very hour that Raziel arrives in Avernus. This task is yours to carry out, since it was you who made him what he is. When you are ready, you may pass through.
I knew, of course, that this oracle was not to be trusted. But in the end, what choice did I have? This peculiar sensation was familiar to me, and the chamber did indeed appear altered by time. In this regard, at least, the oracle seemed to have been truthful.
I have delivered you faithfully to the very hour you desire. You know what must be done, Kain. There is only one way to prevent Raziel from doing great harm.
He is not my enemy.
But you are his.
From this vantage point, I could see the city of Avernus in flames. The oracle had indeed brought me to the time it promised. It might also be true then that Raziel was already there, seeking the heart of darkness. If so, he had to be stopped. I could not allow Janos to be raised.
Tudván, hogy Janos feltámasztása mit is fog okozni, ugye, hogyha egy kicsit visszaemlékszünk a River 2 végére, miután Kain és Raziel egy újabb paradoxont hozott létre, a történelem megint megváltozott, és ő pedig tisztában volt vele, hogy mi fog történni, hogyha Janost feltámasztják. Zárójelbe tenném, hogy a Hildenek pontosan arra várnak, hogy Janost feltámaszták, aztán, hogy megszállja őt a Hildenek ura. Kain elfogadja az ősi isten segítségét, és Raziel idejébe küldi őt. Avernusban Raziel rátalál valakire, akiről teljesen megfeledkezett egy időre, amikor még testvéreire vadászott, és megtalálta Turelt, az utolsó testvérét. Ha visszaemlékszünk még a Blood Omennek az elejére, amit meséltem, ugye itt Avernusban imádtak egy sötét istent, akinek neve Hashagik. Nos, mint kiderült, Turel volt az az ősi isten, és hát igazából nem is isten volt, hanem ő is csak egy vámpír, méghozzá Raziel testvére, hogy pontosan hogyan is került ide, tehát hogy miért is nem találta Raziel ugye a saját területein Turelt, és hogy ő egyáltalán hogyan is kerülhetett ide, arra konkrét választ nem adtak, de valószínűleg Mobiusnak köze volt hozzá.
History is written by the victors. Beneath the vaults of Avernus, I discovered scenes that told a familiar story, but from a very different point of view. This was the work of the enemy race, and revealed what the vampire histories had conveniently omitted. How the noble vampires, God-ridden and righteous, had started the wars that would destroy both races, victor and vanquished alike. Their adversaries opposed the vampires' god and refused to submit to the wheel of fate. For this, they were banished. I now understood the poetic irony of their curse, and my resemblance to the vampire's enemy no longer seemed so accidental. The banished race foretold a hero who would deliver them from their oppressors and destroy the shackles of the vampire's tyrannous god, the same hero that bore the flaming sword. What game was this, where every player on the board claimed the same pawn?
So, Raziel, your true nature is finally revealed. You were never the vampire's savior. It is to the Hilden race you belong. And when Kain realizes this, what do you think he will do?
Great Hashagik, we hear you. We tremble and we obey. We offer this sacrifice upon the altar of the world. The blood of our firstborn to be sacrificed to you.
In the depths of Avernus Cathedral, I stumbled upon a bloody ritual. Was this the source of the corruption that had overtaken the city?
May this blood nourish you for all eternity. The wrath of Hashagik has once more been averted. Depart now as ever in his service. We tremble and we obey. Praise to Hashagik and ever praise. Hashagik, Hashagik, Hashagik.
What was it that these deluded humans worshipped with such fervor? Was this the dreaded unspoken that Vorador had warned me about? Whatever so-called god inhabited this hideous pit, I was about to meet it.
Throat cut first, blood gouging, then it falls into the pit. The sacrifice is rejected. You will know my wrath. Not possible. No, it could not be.
Stand away, monster!
No. That voice. Not possible. I know that voice. But he fell. The abyss. He ended there.
I did not fall into the abyss.
Oh. It remembers that, does it?
I was thrown in by my own brethren.
I heard what you did to them. And now, you have found me at last.
Terrell!
Terrell! Yes, that was my name then.
The others were grotesque, but...
Yes, I am changed. I have become a god. Greater than you ever were, Raziel. You were never a god. Greater even than Kain.
It is to you that these humans offer their blood sacrifices?
Hashagik. Hashagik. Yes.
But how did this happen?
I was summoned. There was darkness and great hunger. And then I was found.
Why do you stay in this terrible place?
Why stay? Would I remain if I could get out? While they hound me and tear at me and... The hour is at hand, as it was foretold.
Terrell?
Use his voice to command the disciples above. We demand offerings to keep the host alive. He has been a durable vessel, but he can take us no further. You must prevail. The champion of our enemy draws near. No! I must have blood! Bring me blood! Or feel the wrath of your god. Yours. Yes, it will strengthen me against them.
What are you doing?
No more questions. No more worship. Time to run. Time to scream. Time to die. Yeah! shall all be free.
Raziel legyőzte Turelt, arra is rájött, hogy valószínűleg őt is megszállták, méghozzá a Hiedenek egyike, ami ezután pedig Razielt fogja megszállni.
Come to me, my undead son. Make haste to the pillars. The stage is set for the grand finale. You will have your vengeance.
Mortanius!
So, you have come out into the open at last. The binding must be fragile indeed. But you will find you are too late.
What am I too late for this time?
No. No. Not now. You are too late for the victory you sought. I have beaten you after all.
You have mistaken my identity.
Have I? You forget who schooled me in the ancient prophecies. This vessel speaks truly. You are indeed overdue, but it no longer matters in the least. With or without you, we will prevail.
So, I finally meet the unspoken. And here it is, nestled in the heart of the circle itself. Ironic.
Poetic justice. To topple the foundations of the pillars from within. We shall have our revenge in full measure and for all time. This one has little strength left. One must not break him. Your kind does not like to lose.
I seek the heart of darkness.
Ah, now you think of that. But as I told you, you are too late. The heart has served its function. I have used it to set prophecy in motion. I created the champion foretold by my masters, who is destined to be your destroyer. The Scion of Balance will save Nosgoth. The Pillars will return to vampire guardianship as intended, and your race will be cast down forever.
Kain. You use the heart of darkness to create Kain.
How else? I refused at first to believe the ancient myths. I thought the vampires were simply a plague upon mankind, a pestilence we had to control. But they were right, and we were wrong to overthrow them, Mobius and I. We didn't understand what it was the Pillars were holding back. I have made my atonement. I will continue to make it to the end, which will be soon now. But I know Kain will set it right. He will restore balance. And none too soon. My enemy is growing stronger.
Where is the heart of darkness now? Did you destroy it?
You still don't understand, do you? You cannot make use of it as long as Kain guards it with his life.
Kain has it. It is in Kain.
Check and mate. This deed will redeem first me and then all Nosgoth. It must. This one grows weak, but we will soon have a stronger vessel. The long-awaited hour approaches. Our release is at hand. I must finish it now.
Mortaniustól sem kapta meg, amit szeretett volna, de viszont arra rádöbbent, hogy hol találja meg Janos szívét, méghozzá Kain testében van, tehát Kaint ezzel a módszerrel változtatták vámpírrá, nos úgy döntött, hogy visszatér a katedrális felsőbb szintjeire. Raziel néhány perc után visszatér a katedrális kápolnájába, és pontosan ekkor érkezik meg Kain is.
Kain, why is this no surprise?
Because our destinies run together, Raziel, like two rivers that have met and can never be distinct again. At your every fatal turn, you'll find me.
And the free will you said was mine. What has become of that?
You still have it. And that has everything to do with my presence here now.
It was your machinations that set my destiny in motion. The coin you tossed has struck the earth. Now you must abide by its outcome.
The coin is still turning, Raziel. To reach the resolution we both can live with, that will best serve our futures, Janos Ordran must not be raised.
Because you do not wish it? Is my free will to be exercised only when it accords with your whim?
There is much more at stake in this than you know.
Yes, and it is Janos who has the answers I desire.
You must trust me, Raziel. Our intentions, for Nosgoth, for our futures, are not so diverse.
I must trust you. Or...
I've not come here to threaten you, Raziel.
You say that, while you hold in your hand the instrument of my doom?
I saved you from the reaver once. I have no intention of imprisoning you within the blade.
At least not until the moment it serves your plans to do so.
You are not the only one at risk. I may carry the instrument of your destruction, but I too have taken a chance in coming here. Or haven't you realized? You bear the only weapon that can kill me.
Then you know what I am, and who you are?
I believe I do.
And still you think you can move me about like your pawn? Think again, Kain.
Take heed, Raziel.
Why? If we are who we are, then are we not destined to fight to the death to decide the fate of Nosgoth?
Don't be a fool! I will not fight you!
And that will be the prophesied hero's battle? I win because you will not fight me? The mighty Kain, scion of balance, would-be savior of Nosgoth, surrenders before the final battle even begins!
Very well. If this will make you see reason, now you will listen to me. The heart of darkness must remain undiscovered. Great harm will come of its use.
You don't know where it is, do you?
No.
You never looked for it.
It doesn't matter, Raziel. Listen to me. You must understand that every creature is bound to one predestined path. We are all shackled.
To the wheel of fate. Believe me, I know that even better than you do.
All but one. Because of your remaking, you are the one unbound creature. The one among us all that truly has free will. You have a choice, Raziel.
Which I'm sure I must make at your direction. Your pawn has reached the end of the board, Kain. And now my powers may even surpass yours. How ironic, if the creature that you made should prove your own undoing. Now, we finish this, once and for all.
Raziel.
Ve Victus.
I didn't.
Woe to the conquered. I have found the heart of darkness, and you go to oblivion. Kain was gone. The madness of this place had somehow fueled my rage, and as it subsided, I felt no elation, no sense of victory. Only a calm certainty that we had once again walked blindly into our enemy's trap. I couldn't be sure whether Kain had truly intended to destroy me, and now it appeared I would never know.
Raziel legyőzte Kaint és kitépi Janos szívét a mellkasából. A látszólag haldokló Kaint elnyeli egy portál és eltűnik. Raziel visszatér Vorador kastélyába, és a sötétség szívét használja fel, hogy újra feltámassza Janost.
This relic had come at so high a cost. My blood offering for the answers I sought from this enigmatic corpse. It was the price of my freedom, for which Kain had paid with his life. Had I journeyed so far and forsaken so much, only to have it end like this?
I remember. Raziel, the heir of prophecy. You came for the reaver, just before the Sarafan found me.
You've been entombed here for 5 centuries. Your murderers are long dead.
500 years. And Vorador?
Also dead. Your bloodline is erased. The age of the vampires is coming to an end.
Then we must waste no time.
I'm not who you think I am, nor is this a benevolent act. I have questions that apparently you alone can answer.
Raziel, there are forces in this world that will strive to deceive you and pervert your destiny. But you must believe your arrival foretells the salvation of the vampire race.
Why then would the vampires devise a weapon to consume and imprison their savior?
No, that cannot be.
While the blade yet exists, I am drawn inexorably toward my doom. It was you who bound me to this fate. Only you can release me.
Raziel, you have been misled. You are ordained by prophecy to wield the reaver.
And so I do, though not quite as you'd envisioned.
Redeemer and Destroyer. Is it possible? Did I misread all the signs? It seems your destiny is more labyrinthian than I had imagined. You must trust me, Raziel. We may have very little time. I will convey you to the place where your answers lie.
Where have you brought me?
We are within the ancient citadel of the vampire race, long ago defiled and abandoned. This fortress endured through centuries of war against our great enemy.
The Hilden?
Yes. From this chamber, we witnessed the summoning of the pillars and the banishment of our adversaries from the land. This is a dire omen. The binding is in peril. The hour of prophecy is at hand.
It's too late. The pillars are already damned.
As long as a single one of us stands, there is still hope. The pillars must not remain under human guardianship. They are not competent to serve.
Why then did you allow the pillars to fall into human hands?
Raziel, there is no time.
I want answers. The world can end this instant for all I care.
Very well. The Hilden cursed us as they fell, afflicting our race with a predatory bloodthirst. But with this transformation came our enemy's true revenge. Immortality.
They liberated you from the wheel of fate.
They imprisoned our souls in this flesh, expelling us from the purifying cycle of death and rebirth.
And yet you pass the curse on.
It was a necessary evil. Our immortality banished us from God's grace. He turned his sight from us and fell silent. Many took their own lives, unable to bear the separation from our God.
Not you, though.
Curse or blessing, it is the price we pay to keep the Hilden banished from the land. To sustain the binding,
We had to preserve our bloodline, and so we passed the dark gift to the human successors of our fallen guardians. They rebelled, inevitably, refusing the curse and seizing the pillars as their own. And so we come to our present dilemma. While mankind governs the pillars, the binding decays. The Hilden strain against the barriers of their prison, scratching to gain a foothold back into this world.
And what does all this mean to me?
We stand at the threshold of a new eon, Raziel, and you are the fulcrum upon which our destiny turns. Beneath this room lies our innermost sanctum. The outer chamber has been opened. It appears events are already in motion. This token is the key to the mysteries you seek. I cannot accompany you. You must face this trial alone. If you prevail, you will have your answers.
And if I fail the test?
Then you will not return.
I should have known I'd find you here.
Here and everywhere, now and always. I am the wheel and its turning. I am the circle of life and death.
And I am beginning to think the vampires committed suicide only to escape your voice.
Do not forego my favor with your impertinence, Raziel. You have finally fulfilled your purpose. I am pleased.
What are you trying to obliterate here, then? What is it about me that has you so afraid?
Your fate is trivial, Raziel. It was Kain's destiny that mattered all along.
It is accomplished. The Forge summons the spirit of every balanced guardian to itself for this final purpose.
Ariel? You?
Yes, Raziel. Yet I am much more than I was. The veil is lifted from my sight. My spirit, united with the souls of my predecessors, is drawn here now for the final baptism of the blade. To restore balance, the sword must be rendered pure by spirit. Release me, Raziel. The Soul Reaver has the power. Release us all. For this we were called. You have done well, Raziel. But there is one more trial for you to bear. You must unite what has been set asunder. Only then will the Scion of Balance be armed for his true endeavor. Only then.
The Reaver now blazed with purifying flame. But far from being enlightened, I found myself entangled in an even greater web of mysteries. What had Janos expected me to learn? And what of Ariel's cryptic message? If the sword was endowed for the Scion of Balance, for Kain, and he was now dead, what hope remained? I needed to find Janos, and soon. I dreaded to think what these ominous rumblings might portend. Janos, what is this?
The binding is failing. All is lost.
We had arrived at that cataclysmic moment when a younger Kain faced his fateful dilemma as Balance Guardian. Choosing self-preservation over sacrifice, he doomed the pillars to eternal ruin.
Raziel, there may yet be hope. There is one who will be called. You must seek the Scion of Balance. Dear God!
Raziel, we meet again. You have played your part flawlessly. It is gratifying to attain both freedom and vengeance in a single stroke.
No! You cannot!
This one is strong. Good. My next move requires a more durable host. Mortals are such fragile vessels. Willing or not, you have provided the instrument of our victory.
I wouldn't celebrate just yet.
You pathetic creature. You haven't got a clue. The seduction of the Circle and possession of Mortanius, Ariel's murder, the corruption and collapse of the Pillars, all orchestrated as a prelude to this moment. We sought an incorruptible vessel, and you provided one. We required the blood of our ancient enemy, and you delivered Janos Audron, having first been lured to the heart of darkness. Best of all, you murdered the Scion of Balance to get it. We've already won.
Raziel, you must not allow them to carry out their plan. Kill me, and you end it now.
Suicidal like the rest of them. Know your place, Raziel. The true hero plays his role and then steps aside. You deluded ghoul. Do you so wish to die a martyr for the vampire's lost cause?
You're not leaving this chamber. I will destroy Janos if I have to.
Very well, then. I'll indulge you.
Raziel, finish it before he returns.
You should have listened to me. Now it is finished, and thus a new epic has its beginning.
Do you see? However far you stray, you will always return to me. Surrender, Raziel.
Never!
Your efforts are wasted, Raziel. That weapon you bear, however endowed, remains only a Wraith blade. It cannot touch me.
I will not be your prisoner.
You have no choice. Your task is fulfilled. Kain has been cleared from the board, and this chamber made ready for my more malleable servants. There is nothing more for you to do.
I refuse to bend my will.
It has always been my will you satisfy, never your own.
You parasitic fraud. You are forced to imprison me because I possess free will.
You possess nothing. As you are undying, your soul cannot be returned to the wheel. But it may console you to abide here in eternity with me. Mobius, my good servant, I call you to the place of our first meeting. Return to me here.
I awoke to find myself in a shadowy realm. A disquieting stillness lay where my heart had been, the heart that had belonged to Janos all along. How was it possible that I still lived?
You are still very full, vampire. That will go first. This realm will render you hideous. You will go mad. I will not know it.
What is this place?
Do you not think of this place every day, vampire? Or are we truly forgotten? This is the exile into which we were driven. But soon now, soon we will be free. We will be free.
I felt strongly drawn, compelled even, not to linger here, but to go to the vampire citadel at once. I knew what ominous hour this was in Nosgoth's history, for here was the event that had shaped my entire existence. I had cast my fate, refusing the sacrifice, damning the pillars, and founding my doomed empire upon their ruins. I would raise the Sarafan priests to be my closest lieutenants, and would one day cast the strongest of them, my servant Raziel, into the abyss, dealing one last hand to play against fate. But in the end, had it made any difference? Had I misread the signs, as Mobius told me? In my arrogance, had I missed my cast at destiny?
The Hilden are merely an inconvenient consequence. They will be dealt with in time. It is a small price to pay for Kain's death.
You're a bit premature.
Kain!
Is there a crack in your omniscience after all, Mobius? First, your omniscience, and now your powers. You're slipping badly.
This is not possible.
The part of me that staff affected is no longer in its place, but you already knew that, didn't you? I always was considered heartless. And now, Mobius, it is time.
To kill me? Again? Your only solution for every problem. Kill!
This is not a debate. You see, this time, you have nothing that I want.
You think this will matter? I serve one who has power over life and death.
Then go to him.
I am his obedient, his devoted servant. Soon, all pain will fade, and my master will bring me life once more. Master, my apologies. A momentary oversight. Somehow Kain still lives, and has unexpectedly dispatched me. Make use of your good servant, and...
Go to your master, then. I release you to the wheel.
Oh, God, no.
Do you see it now? The monster that you served? Is this what you imagined when you worshipped it?
No!
petty actions are irrelevant, Raziel. Mobius was a good servant, but he was of no further use. His long life had run its course. You see, even when you rebel, you are doing my will.
Perhaps. But something has changed, hasn't it? You didn't foresee Kain's return.
You have both traced your paths along the wheel. This is where the journey ends.
You haven't the means to kill either one of us.
Ah, but you can be stopped. And you will come to understand how oblivion can be a mercy. You and Kain will spend eternity buried here together, praying for the merciful release of a death that will never come.
But I was armed with newfound knowledge, and it burned within me.
Redeemer and Destroyer.
Mobius had never seen his master until the Soul Reaver purified his sight. Even the ancient vampires had no idea what it was they so righteously worshipped.
You must unite what has been set asunder.
All the conflict and strife throughout history, all the fear and hatred, served but one purpose: to keep my master's wheel turning. All souls were prisoners, trapped in the pointless round of existence, leading distracted, blunted lives, until death returned them, always in ignorance, to the wheel.
The coin is still turning.
But what hope had there been? One cannot fight the unseen.
Only then will the sign of balance be armed for his true endeavor.
Despair, Raziel. There is no escape.
It was then I knew what I had to do. I alone could end this.
Kain, do you so enjoy death?
Yes.
Raziel. No!
Yes. This is how...
No! Raziel!
The Soul Reaver, pure of all corruption. This is what it is for. This is what I am for. The two become one. Both Soul Reavers together. And the sign of balance is healed. And I am not your enemy, not your destroyer. I am, as before, your right hand, your sword.
No, Raziel, this can't be the way.
And now you will see the true enemy.
Raziel. And it was then I saw.
So, I am revealed to you at last.
What in hell?
I am the origin of life, the devourer of death. I am the hub of the wheel, the purifying cycle to which all souls must be drawn.
Had I condemned Raziel to this nightmare when I cast him into the abyss?
You may ponder the futility of your ambitions as you spend a deathless eternity beneath a mountain of rubble. You and your Soul Reaver will go equally mad as the eons pass. The Citadel of the Apostles will become your living tomb.
Your words are heartening. For you would not fear us unless we could truly do you harm.
No! You are nothing!
False God. This
is the end. The final turn of your wheel.
You cannot destroy me. I am the engine of life itself. The wheel will turn. The plague of your kind will be purged from this world. And on that inevitable day, your wretched, stagnant soul will finally be mine.
In the meantime, you'd best burrow deep.
Now at last, the masks had fallen away. The strings of the puppets had become visible, and the hands of the Prime Mover exposed. Most ironic of all was the last gift that Raziel had given me. More powerful than the sword that now held his soul, more acute even than the vision his sacrifice had accorded me. The first bitter taste of that terrible illusion. Hope.
És most, hogy a végén minden kiderült, azt gondolnánk, hogy a történet itt lesz a legérdekesebb. Erre már nem került sor. Legacy of Kain, Defiance volt az utolsó a történetben. Sajnálatos módon ez a poetikus történet sokkal több kérdést hagyott itt maga után, mint amit meg tudott már válaszolni a legvégén. És hát sajnos rengeteg minden közbeszólt, hogy ezt a történetet ne tudják folytatni. Szerintem az egyik legnagyobb, hogy azok az emberek, akik megszólaltattak néhány karaktert, már nincsenek közöttünk, és hát nélkülük ez már lehet, hogy nem lett volna ugyanolyan. De mindent összegezve, Legacy of Kain története egy olyan számomra, ami mondhatnám, hogy talán nem is játék. Olyan volt, mint egy könyv, egy hangos könyv, ahol úgy hallottam a szinkron színészeket, mintha ők maguk adtak volna életet ezeknek a karaktereknek. A szinkron színészek zseniálisak voltak ezekben a részekben, és minden tiszteletem az övék. Nagyon komplex, nagyon hihetetlenül story heavy az egész, de ez az, ami a valódi varázsát megadja ennek a történetnek, és minden egyes fűszának volt értelme, és talán amit még ki tudnék emelni ebben a történetben, az időutazásnak a fogalmát. Nos, az időutazást azt tudjuk, hogy minden egyes sztoriban nagyon kényes téma. Biztos vagyok benne, hogy mindannyian ismerünk olyan filmet, vagy olyan történetet, ahol az időutazást elővették, és ott valamiért mindig elhasal a történet. Én úgy érzem, hogy Legacy of Kain egy pontosan jó példa arra, hogy hogyan kell egy jó történetben az időutazást használni. De mivel sosem kaptunk folytatást, így már a végére sosem fogunk rájönni, hogy mi is történt Kainnel ezután, bár a legjobbakat tudom remélni, hiszen ha jobban megnézzük, Kain is átalakult ezekben a történetekben. Az arisztokrata nemesből lett vámpír, ugye, aki kalandra adta a fejét, bár nem mintha nagyon akarta volna azt a kalandot, de kénytelen volt, aztán beleszeretett a saját sötét hatalmába, és mikor megöregedett, utána lett bölcsebb, sokkal bölcsebb lett, és utána már elkezdett foglalkozni az emberekkel, elkezdett törődni a világgal, és már csak az lobogott a szem előtt, hogy hogyan menthetné meg a világot. Szóval mi ez, ha nem karakterfejlődés? De természetesen ez ugyanúgy Razielre is vonatkozik, hiszen megismerhettük a Sarafan ényét, aki konkrétan abban lelte örömét, hogy vámpírokat gyilkolhat, aztán ő maga is vámpír lett, aki szolgált egy nála sokkal erősebb vámpírt, utána pedig Liderc lett belőle, akit csak a bosszúvágy hajtott, aztán kezdte megérteni, hogy a világ egyáltalán nem az, aminek látszik, és sokkal több dolog van ott, hogyha belemerjük vetni magunkat az ismeretlenbe, és hát Raziel is átment egy óriási nagy karakterfejlődésen, hiszen mindvégig el akarta kerülni, hogy bezárják őt a kardba, és a történet legvégén, amikor megértette, hogy mi miért történik, és hogy mi az ő sorsa, elfogadta azt, csak azért, hogy megmenthesse a világot. Viszont ami az egész történetben cseng, hogy saját akaratából. Ezzel szerettem volna magamnak is úgymond egy emléket állítani, hogy soha ne feledjem el ezt a szériát, és mindig visszatérjek hozzá, és hogy sose feledjem ezt a remek történetet. Nos, hölgyek, urak, én nagyon szépen köszönöm a figyelmet, és köszönöm, hogy végighallgattátok ezt a nagyon hosszú történetet. Mindenkinek további szép napot kívánok, és találkozunk a következő videóban, sziasztok!